It's 2 days after the lifting of Eric Skolson's curse. Rain has come in off the coast, making visibility poor, where the trio of longships are moored west of the ruins of Boa. In a tent that flaps in the wild wind beyond, a dozen or so gathered about a leather map staked out by different daggers across a wooden board. There's torches sputtering in here, and you can hear the occasional waft of rain as it sheets up and down the outside of the hides and then off the rest of the camp. You hear the calls of men occasionally outside. Skoll frowns, scratching at his silver-flecked beard. If we can lure the foe to open battle, my Ulford now can smash into their side and rear. It would be a great slaughter there, and then much pillaging. Stigorm shakes his head and says, I'll suffer no looting, burning, pillaging, or rapine. Helgaskr is my birthright, and I will claim it untarnished. Wulfred, the broad-chested Asblother, stands as guard of Stigorm, speaks and says, Sigthric is a worm, but he is no fool. He'll not meet our force in open battle. He'll be cautious and stick to his palisades and ditches. And behind you, Ingvar Harding leans in and mutters so that those nearby to you can hear, though not as if he's like asserting to the rest of the group as the other speakers. We could afford to lose half our men, Lord. Then Sidric, he can afford to lose more. An assault on the walls of Helgaskr might mean defeat, even if we win. A couple of the other men grumbled. Those also inside here, other than your companions, Ranald, the thrall of Antrimnir, Kjartan Herderson, nearby on his wheelchair with a thrall, Eric Skolson, and the others who have spoken, while the gale warps about outside.
I have numerous options, none of which please me. You're right to think that this man won't meet us in open battle. I wouldn't if I was him. So we have to lure him out somehow. If we set a fire to the ships in the dock, if there are any ships, or the boats even, to the dock area, it's vital to their survival. If we set a fire there, he'll have to send men to check it out, even if he sends a small force. We could kill those before they return to the town, capture any who are important, and then offer parley. I do not want to throw ourselves against the walls.
And perhaps if we can convince them to parley rather than battle by taking hostages or making threats, it would put us better in the eyes of the civilians here, not to have bloodshed on their soil. Lead to a better image, less conflict when the changing of hands is actually made.
Agreed. We shouldn't destroy the place in the process.
Skoll says, besides, if this weather holds, it may be hard to burn the docks and ships, though we could break into the hovels and burn them easy enough. Yeah, but Stigorm gives a sneer and obviously doesn't hold to any of that.
It's a shame to burn whatever is in the docks if we can even burn it, but it's probably our best chance for success.
And if it should come to it, and we have to take the place, if this plan works and we kill those with outside the walls, what of those within?
We need to move quickly as we can. If we can kill those men outside the walls quickly and without too much issue, then we throw ourselves against the gates. We've taken out some of their forces. We send our heavily armored men with shields over their heads and we chop at the gate until it burns down or breaks down. and we go inside and slaughter the rest. I don't see what other option we have.
Stigorm and Skoll both smile at this idea, though Wolfred seems to disapprove, though says nothing.
My preference, of course, would be to save those people and take them to our side if we can. But I think that the worm that lives inside this place is unlikely to surrender. Then again, if he sees this many warriors at his gate and some of his better warriors already slain, he might turn.
If we can take control of the surrounding area as well, we may leave him no choice but to surrender. He can only stay inside the walls for so long, and if we hold everything else, then resistance will not prove very fruitful of him.
Would he open the gates to save the lives of his people? Or is he a coward?
He is a coward, says Stigorm, though Wolfred next to him clears his throat and says, but it's said even farther he loves his folk. He may. Who can know? Stigorm sneers at that, at the idea of that means that his brother is weak and like proof of his brother's weakness.
If he barricades himself in his fortress with whoever he has left, then we can simply take villagers in front of the gates and threaten to kill them.
Threaten, says Stigorm.
Well, it's soon or not. These are going to be your people.
And if he refuses and calls our bluff?
Then we kill them.
He scoffs at that and goes to protest, looks to Wolfred for support, who gives him like a stony glare.
You cannot make a
Stigorm
threat
looks
and
back.
not intend to go through with it. Otherwise, it's meaningless.
The old, useless, I'd consent to their sacrifice if it gains us Helgasker.
You won't open the gates for them. We'll find the most beautiful girl that we can. We'll find out, ask the villagers who is popular, take her in front, have her killed.
You are a cold one. I like it. This might work, says Stigorm. Wolfred again seems to disapprove behind him, but says nothing.
And perhaps that if we were to end up being forced to use such tactics, given the right ways, the right twists, it could help to improve public opinion among the new lords if the previous one will not even open his gate for his people. We might be
And
able to
so
turn them
dissent.
against him if he refuses.
Skoll nods at that. Your rune man is wise, Blackhand.
He is. We'll need a force to cross the river in silence and take out the southern watchtower so we can sail our ships up the river. Ranald, what do you remember about these watchtowers?
Oh, Lord. Their base is mortared in stone. They've been there since the days of the first Bragi. But in the age of my father, from near ruin, they were built up again with stout lumber from the Bardswood to the north. In his day, they were manned with watchfires day and night to herald the approach of reavers. Though I've not been in these lands some half a decade, could not attest to their current state, Lord. Only that, Lord. Oh, as you go to speak, and then he kind of like crouches like lower and holds his shoulders down worriedly.
Speak.
Given the events north of the Drover's Wash that Lord Thormar spoke of, I'd hazard that Thane Bragison is wary, and so will have those places manned if he did not in previous years, Lord. And then he'll like step back behind Anthrimnir, eyes downcast. Stigorm looking but not being able to find anything to reprove the thrall about.
Every man that is not in Helgasker is a man that we can kill. Once we are revealed, there are other watchtowers, there will be men there, and they will come. That is fine. We'll kill them.
piecemeal, we'll cut them to ribbons. He points, Skull points to the two other watchtower, or the mill and the other western watchtower.
It might be wise even to keep some men in this village, and Ingvar will point to like the village on the western side, or the small kind of set of houses on the western side, to surprise any men who think they might come to save.
And where so leave the ships, and with whom, says Skull warily, like an Isclofan would. Stigorm, it seems, hadn't appeared to have thought of that. He's thinking of the future.
The ships stay at the bridge with their thralls, and 6 men per ship.
Skull purses his lips and nods. Stigorm nods vigorously and gives like a dismissive wave of the hand. And Wolfred looks shrewdly between the allies of his lord.
And so we'll keep some men then at the bridge, ensuring that, firstly, the ships are not taken, and secondly, that no one escapes across the bridge with any treasure or anything like that from Helgasker. Is there just one gate, Ronald?
2, Lord. One at the central entrance, and he points like where the road meets it, and then one at the rear, which leads to the Thane's Tower, Lord. Though it is a sheer purchase that gives it height to survey across the north and western farmsteads. The front gate here, he points, is the larger, 8 beams across, Lord, double-doored, that open inward.
I'll drum his fingers on the map for a second and think. We cannot risk this weasel escaping at the back gate. Or men coming in through it.
We'd send some of the more... he wouldn't say... How would he phrase this? Skull would say, those warriors who fight at the rear ranks, a few of them maybe could be spared to move around to that northern approach while we conduct our affairs before dawn. That way, if he does escape, they might catch him, and we might not miss them so much where the battle is hardest, and he points at the gates.
Yeah, Ingvar will nod at that. That makes sense.
Like Hjod and Fromund and...
Yeah, the old lads and the young kids. Very good. It should be deadest night when we approach. 3, 4 in the morning, something like that. We'll pull the ships up here, and he'll point like off the map to the south. A small force will move up, cross the river, cross the bridge, either way, and come down and take the watch house. I wonder, is it more likely that they would see people swimming in the river, or was it more likely to see people approaching on foot?
You mean the watchtower?
Yeah, like if I'm in a watchtower, I'm going to be looking out to sea for reaver ships. I'm going to be looking at the land. I don't think I'm looking at anyone swimming across the river right beneath me.
Especially because
I
you're
think
not going to
especially
see
in
anything
darkness.
shiny.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's probably
Yeah.
like safer.
The only dangerous points are like the entry and exit from the water, which would be the noisiest.
Yeah.
And the most likely to draw eyes. But I think once they're actually in the river, that it would be basically invisible, like at that time of night.
And the closer we get to it, the less they can see us, which is kind of nice. So maybe we went across like literally that point where there's like the hex that the watchtower is on, and then the hex of water sort of bottom right to it, and then there's another hex of land there. That's probably where we went across. It's like the shortest distance that brings us the closest to the watchtower as quickly as possible. Like right at the river mouth. Skull, you have Ulfhednar with you.
Shield breakers. Aye.
They do not wear armor, I assume.
Armor from the gods that we cannot see.
Perfect. They should come with then. And all warriors who don't wear heavy armor. We need to be quiet and quick here. Once we get into the tower, we'll make a bird call. No, it wouldn't carry out that way. We will. If we light a fire, they'll see it in the village.
It has to be time-based.
Yeah.
How do you say that? It would have to go off the stars or the moon, would say Skull.
Yeah.
Or a preordained point of time, would say Stigorm.
Yeah, because there's no way we could get a signal from where we are without also alerting the village.
Uh-huh.
So I guess then from the time that we... like, how do we let the ships know that we've taken the tower is the question.
If you wish to signal, Jarl, you could have 3 or 4 men between the tower, the river, and the ship. They could pass it among themselves. A call, a whistle. It would not carry to the village.
Maybe. I like it not. It's too much risk of a man being seen. A time. I mean, Ingvar would know, but something like when the moon reaches this point of the evening, giving us basically 20 minutes from the time that we get into the river to the time when they should head up it.
And that's when the ships will pour up the river towards the bridge. Meanwhile, the tower-taking party will move to the docks to create chaos and fire there.
Yep.
That being a signal for the main force to charge in west towards the gate and separate the defenders from the docks and the rest of the town.
Almost, yeah. They almost want to go past the gate so that, like, we don't want to initially attack the gate unless it's open, in which case the force should go in.
Yep.
But if it's not open, I mean, you guys, some of you will be with the main force, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So if the gate's open, get the hell in there. If it's not open, then like form a wall so that anyone retreating gets caught by you.
So will we have a delay to make sure that they have people who can come out and attend the fire and...
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you'll be able to see them, I think, from where you are at the bridge.
Okay.
And so Stigorm says, pointing at the docks, that force would just pull back further and not engage the enemy and draw them out of Helgasker to be cut down by the main force.
Actually, might be wise to hide our force in that little bit of village. Do you see the 3 squares where there's a little bit of housing and stuff? Because if we get our boys to run in there and then they chase us, and then there's like 100 men in that little area, we just butcher them. But if
and it's closer to the walls, but yeah, if they see them, it's closer.
Yeah, how do you hide 100 men among like a few houses?
This village is there too. They'll just begin screaming like crazy. Okay. Yeah, so let's just have the force march down towards the gate. If it's open, run in. If not, run towards the docks. And those of us who have like snuck across will try and lead them on sort of a merry dance so that we want to basically get them between us and our main force, I guess is the plan.
We'd need a small force on the causeway from the town up to the palisade in case they try and attack us in the rear should the gates be closed, and we move our main force to the docks, says Stigorm. 12 men could hold that causeway with shields.
Yes, where is that? So if they come from
the gate, the main gate?
Yeah.
So presuming you head across and the gates are closed and then the force heads south to seize the docks and the rest of the town, and they pour out to attack you in the rear, you could leave 12 men on the causeway there to prevent that.
Yes.
Otherwise, they'd leave you open to flank.
Yep. Okay. That's the plan then, as far as I can see it.
Stigorm nods approvingly, though he was confident of the plan before in its many different incarnations over the last couple of days of strategizing. Whereas Skull still scratches his beard, though less nervously, and after a while nods to you.
Is the Thane in his tower?
That's where his seat is. I bet that's where you'd find the worm hiding while his warriors do the fighting, says Stigorm.
He'll come out of it when he realizes that his town is under attack.
or taken. Skull gives a cruel smile, pointing across the lines.
Or taken. That's the plan. We'll see it done.
As soon as the weather lifts, we sail east then, says Skull. Stigorm smiles at that, nodding, stepping back from the map.
We'll need to make a wide berth around so that watchtowers can't see us. We don't want to be spotted before we get there. We want to sail basically like way out into the cove and then, or into the bay and then back towards it, you know? But yes.
I could lead our 3 sea wolves around that bay. I know it from my youth, says Stigorm.
Yeah, Ingvar would nod.
Then we agreed, and then after, you allies, you will have the spoils, and he points to the farmsteads that flank the Helgasker palisade. And our Jarl will be pleased.
He'll be pleased. Ingvar will say that he'll give a quick look to Skull, like a meaningful one.
And at that, the meeting is called. The various parties begin to go off either to their own tents or ships amongst their own men, who half are like camped up on the side of the shore for some respite from the inclement weather, and the others on the ships, which just hang lazy out in the bay.
Ingvar would do his best to like try and make a list of the men he wants to take with him. Those who like don't wear heavy armor, who he knows he can be quiet, and who also he knows like are gutters. He doesn't want like warriors. He wants people who will like shank a man to death in the shadow of a watchtower. So he'll think about that and pick Anthrimnir certainly in the Ulfhethnar. And then beyond that, I guess I want to take maybe 15 with me in total.
If you're making the list, Ygritte will kind of clear her throat. I would go, but you know how I feel about swimming.
There must be one of the children of Balder leading.
Yes.
I think like they would take a few steps away from the rest, or maybe it's like during the evening, and he would say, "I have a very special task for you, and you alone. I also didn't ask you to do this. I would never ask you to do this. It's beneath me."
Of course, Jarl.
Stigorm. The shield wall is a crazy place, and blades come from all directions, and should something happen to him, that would be a great shame. Though I do think something will happen to him in that shield wall.
Many a man dies in the shield wall, and it is difficult to say who is to blame.
Of course.
Perhaps ill luck will find him.
I hope not.
Of course, he is your ally. You would wish nothing but good fortune for him.
Certainly. I hope that in no time he is Jarl of this place.
In no time will he be Jarl of this place.
He'll grin and give her shoulder a squeeze, and then stand and go and berate someone.
Yeah, you can hear it from inside your own tent, even above the rain that patters on top, as Ranulf takes something from like the small brazier and like scrapes it into a cup for you, and puts it next to you, so you can take one hand off the ale horn to take the warmed food. Now breaking your fast after the captain's poring over the Helgaskr map, and he'll like eyes downcast after he hands over the bowl, retreat back to his corner of the tent and pull out his like piece of like hardened bread and his own scraping of gruel, and like eagerly take to it. So in a few days' time, Lord, you'll go to the battle. And he looks up at you in Thrimnir, knowing you're often tight with your words. I wonder if there'll be none forthcoming now, and so go back to his gruel in silence, as he has many times.
Yeah, and from me wouldn't respond to his words, but he would at least give the man a nod.
I'll pray to Thor, Lord, that you live. For I'd not chance another master. And he says that with like a smile, but then seeing the implacable, stony visage, will just like look back to his gruel. Outside, one of the men chances the rain of greased sheepskin up over his head as he like slosses through the muck up towards outside your tent and like raps on the heavy hide curtain. Rake.
Yeah, Rake will hear the sound, kind of tilts his head suddenly in the direction. Yes, who is it?
Gearfin, Rune Man. I'm one of Skoll's men. I wonder if I might talk to you, he says above the rain. I think it's an odd time for someone like this to come.
Yeah, he would kind of furrow his brow in frustration at the sudden and unexpected disturbing. But he would just kind of shake his head after a quick second. Come in.
Thank you, man. The younger man, or younger than you anyway, will come in under like the wooden pole, rubbing his hands together eagerly, looking about. I'm sorry to disturb. My name's Gearfin, and I heard what you did for Skoll's boy, and I want to thank you for that, and maybe ask you if you could help me with a problem.
Yeah, Rake will like lean onto the ground, and begin to like kind of scratching at the ground in this like strange pattern. And after a short time, like a small fire will erupt, even though there's no fuel or kindling, and it doesn't seem to spread, but it'll still warm. And we'll kind of like pat next to it and sit down. Sit.
He'll look wide-eyed and slowly, as if in like a half daze, will like go to sit next to you, one hand clutching the amulet of Thor about his neck, and the other going out to support himself as he sinks down to the ground nearby to you, but not next to you.
If you're familiar with the situation that happened with Skull, then I'm sure you know that favors are not free. Nonetheless, I will hear you out. If you have a request to make, speak it.
Like leans in conspiratorially, even though there's like a din of rain outside, such that even if anyone's outside, they probably wouldn't be able to listen to your conversation in here anyway. But it's a problem with my wife, Rake. When I lie with her in the warm months, my member it, and he like looks downcast. It doesn't work. And he waits for like the scorn or mockery or laughter or beratement that he's probably suffered under Skoll's men, his own battle brethren. I had a witch. She read my skein in my blood when I was young, and she said I'd live long. I don't want to live a long life with a useless member.
Yeah, Rake will kind of try his best to like hide like the rolling of his eyes as he realizes now that what he's done uh is public, that the downside of renown, especially with people of his abilities, is now suddenly you have hordes of people who all need favors and have questions, and he is realizing now that he'll probably be uh the subject of many of these sorts of conversations. But he'll disguise the frustration and just kind of look. "Hmm, there certainly are ways about such things. It's not necessarily the main force of my knowledge. I'll see if there's anything I can recall about such things." So basically, like I don't have any actual like rune things that do that, though there actually are some in here that are at least similar. Um, Interestingly enough. So I
He'll
don't know
say,
if there's anything else kind of outside of the strict mechanics, but otherwise he'll just kind of offer that that's not his area of expertise.
after he's like heard your consultation, he'll like shake his head, nod thankfully to you. Well, uh, thanks, thanks anyway, Rakes Norris, and I'll pay you for your time and for your secrecy.
Do not worry about payments for no services were rendered. Secrecy is a duty in such situations. Have no fear.
I tell you truthfully, man, I'd rather charge screaming into the bloodshed of Helgasker than go back to Valborg for her further chidings. She's child-hungry and fearsome. But I
Well, I
thank
am
you.
not. Well, I personally do not have such knowledge. There are people who do. There are runes that do relate situations like this. If we see another rune man or perhaps another Seath, you are not beyond help, just beyond my help.
If you hear of such a one, I would be thankful.
Until then,
But
you'd be assured that no one will speak of it otherwise.
he nods, like visibly relaxed. Better go sharpen my sword. Thank you. And he'll like go back out into the rain.
Rake will, after the man leaves, just kind of shake his head and like stifle a short laugh at the sudden absurdity of the situation. And can't help but like smile at the at least the person's earnestness to try.
2 days, the weather holds, and on the third, it clears. On the fourth, there's a light wind, which gusts up more moderately on the day after that. So you find yourselves aboard your respective ships, snaking through the southern part of the bay of Helgasker around to the wilder land across the river to enact your plan. The winds hold such that the men are not too tested at the oar benches, though it is necessary on each of the days at point. On the third night second night across the bay, you snake into the shore under cover of darkness sometime after midnight. The southeastern shore of the river that cuts down and girts the eastern facet of Helgasker's region. Through like hushed calls or like hissed voices, men can throw ropes to one another and bring the long ships up into a shallow cove. Two of them up onto the beach, and the other lower in the water, just in sight, with a sliver of moonlight. The wind makes it a cool evening. It also sweeps away a couple of the clouds above. Skolson will swim across or move across to the beachhead where Stigorm and the others are gathering, and he'll summon forth his best swimmers and Ulfadnar, who will be like contributed to the force that swims across to the watchtower. Stigl singles out a couple of Isklofen under his command who'll go with the men. And those who like stay behind with the ships look on forlornly as the rest go off to glory in what bright mail they possess.
Before I leave, I would say to Rake and Ygritte to keep their eyes on Stigorm, but particularly, I think his name was Wulfrith, his advisor. I think that there's a chance here that those men who are as Blothers are likely, or that it's possible, that they could turn in the middle of this battle, and we need to be very vigilant of them and how they are acting. So we want to keep like some of our best men near them and aware of the fact that they could turn, is what I would say to the two of them before myself and Anthrimnir head to swim across the river.
Yeah, Rake would take note of the people that you point out, if he wasn't already familiar with them by now, and make mental notes to keep them in the corner of his eye.
Of course, I would not dream of straying too far from our allies.
Ingvar will smile at that.
So 3 Isklofen under Stigorm's command, half a dozen of Skoll's warriors will fall in alongside you and Thrimnir and Ingvar on the eastern side of the river of Helgasker. After you guys have been like seen to your point, the rest will like move their way back to their ships, readying to sail up in half an hour towards the bridge.
Yeah, I'll take some of the others from our side as well. I want to take Jura with me because I think he's very capable and he might protect me when we come to it. And then like 1 or 2 that I think are like very quick or very quiet and who I can trust, like not to, like I certainly won't be taking Fromund because he's forever coughing his guts up, but people who I think are capable. I want to have about 15 to 20 with me. Let's say 15.
So you 2 and 6 and 3 makes 11. And how many, sorry, in total did you say you want to take?
I think 15 is okay.
15, so 4 more of your guys. Jura, Folky, Two Teeth, Solsi the rower,
yeah,
Smiling Toval, the best swimmers.
Perfect.
Okay. The Carl of Skoll's force, should it come up, is Holmfrid, and he'll nod and mutter, Lord, as he like gives one of Skoll's thralls the last of his heavy raiment and like flexes his muscle in like the brisk pre-dawn breeze, readying for the swim beyond.
Ingvar will do the same, just kind of like rolling his shoulders a little bit and like making sure that his hatchets and knives are like well concealed, or not concealed, but like well kept on his clothing before like cracking his neck and waiting for the rest to be ready. He's ready mentally at this stage already, and he's like not hopping from foot to foot, but he's kind of fidgety with the excitement of it.
The rest of the crew around you, Rake and Ygritte, similarly are tense and excitement is palpable as the minutes seem to grind on and men begin to wonder as they do before a fight like this. After a time, Harding will move from the rudder and the creak of the Sjohestur boards make his way to you, Reek, place a heavy hand on your shoulder in the darkness and say, "It is the time. We should move. And we've muted the oars. The Sjohestur will be quiet this night."
Rake will nod, and then turning to Ygritte and the others. It's time. Rally the men. Let's begin to move.
So as silently as they can, the 3 sea wolves begin snaking their way up the river moving against its flow, and so having to put their oars to use. Muffled as they are, they still cause a splash. And to all of you hopefuls wishing for like a guile and secrecy this night, every splash seems 100-fold louder than it is, and you wonder how it carries to the shore beyond. Uncertain of the fate of Ingvar and his men, as you push up uncontested north, snaking up the river till the bridge comes in sight, and Stigorm's man calls from the fore for the boats to turn in, for the men to prepare to disembark. Meanwhile, you men have pushed forward into the shore, dipped into the icy water, and then began your swim, the 15, across to the tower beyond. I'm going to need an athletics check from each of you guys. Who am I taking?
All right, the big quiet man. Hopefully he remains quiet during this, and myself. That's pretty good. 6. 17.
Also a 17.
Yeah, so easily, the men about you, you make your way across. It's not like quietly, of course, the splashing of 15 men. Though in a line, you slowly make your way across. The wind whips every so often, so that when you like come up for air or like bob for a moment to regain your strength, it's quite frigid. But eventually, after tense minutes, you make your way and feel like rockfall or sandfall beneath your feet, and make your way up to where like the waves are like splashing around. You can see the occasional spume as they hear rocks, and it's slow going here. A few of the men like have to hold curses or bite their tongue as they slip or upend in the precarious work of liberating themselves from the river and coming ashore. You can see dim lighting to the south of what must be the watchtower in the distance when all of your men have come ashore. And after the last is hauled out, panting, sodden, and soon to shiver as they creep, head south towards that place.
Is there like a lip of the bank that we could like not be seen if we press ourselves against it or something, so we can have a second
force?
No, as in like if we're coming out of the river, I assume it's like slanted enough so that if we press ourselves against the river bank, that we wouldn't be able to be seen by the watchtower. Because like the land obviously slopes down into the river, just so we can take a second to like warm ourselves. I want all the men to like warm their hands and things, so they don't like get to the fight and then drop their weapons because their hands are numb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe like laying in the sand within sound of the breakers, just like men like into their hands, like rubbing together a few, like one or two, like teeth chittering already, and the sound of like men like not fumbling, but like drawing forth weapons and readying themselves.
Yeah,
you can see their like breath on the night.
Mud up those weapons as best we can as well, so no light like shines against them, and on our skin as well. Get like sand and muck and like rub them across our faces and things, so nothing catches the light.
After a time, it feels right, and after a nod and a turn, you can nearly inaudibly hear the men with you fall in behind, begin following you as you creep doubled low south towards the tower. The wind whips about here, and more than a few of the men are like shaking, chittering as the watchtower looms higher. In like the sliver of moonlight, you can see a couple of large stones hauled into place for a foundation of what I once made for a decent tower, but it ends after a couple of strata, and then on top of that, hewn lumber serves as the higher half mount of this tower. Watching the place from afar, trying to accustom your eyes to the darkness. Could I get a perception check from you two to see what you notice as you do like the hand up and everyone crouches low within sight of or close sight of the watchtower? So in Thrymnir, you can see every so often silhouetted above a lone figure stalking from corner to corner at the top of the wooden part of the watchtower. You can also hear the occasional sound, like the murmur of talking coming from the watchtower, though it's faint and audible. Many others about you don't even seem to hear it. You hear the occasional whinnick and stomp inside like a smaller connecting building, the base of the stones of the watchtower, which is made of hewn lumber and wattle and daub. Telling you there's like a horse or a donkey or mule or something like that in there. And by the sound of the stretch of leather and its occasional whine, a hound, either in like the door awning or of the outbuilding where the beast is stabled, that like pulls at its cord and whines to be let in out of the cold night.
Has anyone got a bow? I'll look up and down the line.
I'm going to say no. The two is Clofin or Skjold's men and such. None brought a bow. And get wet in the swim, and the arrows in the swim. Be impractical, I think. So yeah, they just got the melee weapons or spears to throw or axes to throw.
Yeah, we have to kill that dog before it smells us. He'll like gesture up and then the line of them, trying to like bring that point across. If we get close and the dog starts barking, we're fucked.
And the more people that try and approach, the more chance that the dog might smell something in this whipping wind. So the less people that approach it, less chance of it detecting, you'd think. Like the more enforced you go to the watchtower, the more difficult it might be.
Yep, it's a tricky one. One of us has to go and kill this dog and Thrymnir. You want to do it or will I?
Yeah, he'll simply give you the nod. You are the arrow after all. He's gonna give the nod and just slip off towards it.
Okay, can I get you a opposed a stealth check, please? DC 22.
Stealth for 18.
So inside, gathered around like a low slit of a hearth, a couple of eager-faced Asbloth youths are listening to an older, hard-faced veteran as like the wind whips about outside. And then the gods sent a messenger down to Svartalheim, the realm of dwarves. They, being the most skilled craftspeople in the cosmos, were able to forge a chain of strength that could not be equaled, and wrought of the sound of cats' footsteps, and at that he like stops and turns his head, and hears the sound of the hound barking. The men panic, and like a prickle of fear runs up their spines. You boys, ready yourself, and he like turn and grab a spear, leaning next to him, and stand upright. You hear the dog barking as you like crouch low and as I'm swiftly like moving towards it. And Thrymnir, what do you do?
The task still has to be completed, so he's going to quicken his pace.
If you're not stealthing, you'll be moving at full speed, and so can reach the stable that the dog has like poked its head out of and is barking out into the night at you from.
As soon as I get within reach of the dog, if possible, I would simply bring my axe down upon it to silence it.
Okay, roll to hit. Roll initiative.
It's a 14 to hit.
That hits.
Eight damage.
It sinks down between its eyes and it gives like a oof as it just like slumps to the ground. You put your boot over the thing and like rip it out of the skull. It oozes down into the straw, and you can hear now like the panicked whinnicks of like what sounds like a pony or horse. So like swaying in its stall and like hauling at bound leather, giving like like fear as like the smell of blood becomes like rank and in the whipping wind. And yeah, I'll just put the initiative in. So the door is thrown open nearby to you, and an older man, like shorter, probably similar stature to yourself, and Thrimnir, a spear in like two hands, like it would emerge first, and then him following behind it, out into the night. Thunder, thunder, and then he'd like turn to see you rip your axe out of its skull, and he'll give a cry, "Tiervi, to the horse! You must warn them!" And he'll rush forward, trying to impale you with his spear held in two hands. You step aside easily from the first thrust, and then the second, like you grab it in close and with like a shove, haul the man backwards. Ingvar, you hear and see this happen beyond 45 feet from the door of the watchtower. You can see the silhouetted figure up the top, like turn down, and hear the sound of movement from within the flickering shadows of the base of the watchtower.
Okay, so I'm gonna dash, and I'm gonna throw an axe as I. No, I can't do that. So I'm gonna use my action to dash, and then I'm gonna action surge and dash again to get to the horse and shove my axe into its brain. Hopefully.
Being in a stall, I'm going to say that you have advantage upon attacking the horse. But if you roll a critical one, I'm going to say the horse will get a bite or kick.
Okay. That's a crit. I think it's probably a dead horse. It's going to be 14 damage.
It is. What happens?
Yeah, so he just like with insane speed, because he knows this is like the whole mission hinges on this. He just like sprints past Anthrimnir and like rushes up to the stall and like takes his axe and just buries it into the horse's head, like a strange mirror to the way that Anthrimnir just killed the dog right between the eyes. Just and then he like struggles to pull it out, but then one more time hits it into the horse's head just in case, and then like probably nearly throws up having run so fast.
TV runs out of the base of the watchtower, rushing towards the stable into the midst of yourself and Anthrimnir, turns on his heel to look at Skapti, who says, "Go, boy, run!" And Tiffy will use his action to dash towards the town of Helgaskr from here. Cole, up on top of the watchtower, will reach down behind him, then reappear again with two spears in one hand and one in the other. And aiming down, he'll hurl it towards you, Anthrimnir. It's going to be a 14 to hit.
Afraid not. 17 is a magic number.
You see it coming. You can step under the awning. It just like thunks into the side of the watchtower's base, and he'll fumble for another throwing spear. Aki will rush out from behind Tiefi, and Skapti will say to him, "Go, boy, follow your cousin." But Aki will like shake his head and rush forward, raising like a woodsman's axe in two hands and trying to bring it down into you, Anthrimnir, as you escape the thrown spear from above. The axe strike is less than 14, so a miss. You can bring your own weapon up to like rebuff the lad's strike. After Aki and Thrimnir, it's your turn to act.
The boy that's running away, the spear that landed close by, as he dodges the blows coming in, he's going to grab that, pick it up, and throw it at the boy.
The boy in the watchtower or the boy running away?
The boy running away to give the warning.
Okay, so because you're in melee, you'll have disadvantage on that unless you want to provoke opportunities of attack and step back.
No, I'll take the opportunities of attack.
Skapti stabs you in the thigh for a 22. As you try and move away from him, you take 6 piercing damage. Aki will strike with the hatchet, but you've already moved off, and then so can complete your throw.
Okay. Yeah, hefting the spear will throw it for a 23 to hit.
Certainly.
What is the damage die on this spear?
D6 plus strength thrown.
D6. which will make it 13 points of damage, sorry.
Holy fuck. The spear catches him in the back between his shoulder blades and punches out the front. And he gives a wet as he like coughs out his last breath and then like chokes face down in the wind. Aki screams, "Davy!" And then Jorah and the rest of the boys surge out of the dark. Half of them rush forward to interpose themselves between Skapti, Aki, and you, Lloyd. And the other half rush up the base of the watchtower and begin clambering up to ruin Cole's evening or morning, I should say. Jorah will just step in and see you just brutally hack this horse down, and then will spin on a heel, bringing his blade up to guard the doorway to the stall in case either Skapti or Aki should hazard you. And then it is Skapti's turn. He's going to continue roaring for Aki to run, knowing that Cole is doomed. And Aki will refuse again until Skapti forces him by reminding him of his sister and his duty to his family. Then he'll try and gut you and Thrymnir with his spear for a critical fail, so it's this cloth, so we'll roll to see if it shatters, which it does not. You step aside of the first strike, and the second is nearly equally as pitiful. So maybe that's from the bustling of warriors running in around him or jostling him and distracting him as the odds now become overwhelming. Ingvir, you're next to act.
Okay, I'm going to... So that boy is definitely dead who's had the spear thrown at him. Okay, then I'll rush... Do I think I can get up the tower quicker than the men climbing it if I run up the stairs?
Yeah, if you moved and dashed from where you currently are, you could get all the way to the top of the watchtower, but that'd take your movement and action.
That's what I will do. I want to get up there, and if there is a boy about to light a fire, I just want to shout at him something. Boy! So he hesitates, hopefully long enough to not light it.
Yeah, he pisses himself as you climb up the tower, quite literally. There's no watchfire or brazier up here, just his throwing spears. This place has languished since the days of Bragi.
Yeah,
there'll be no fire for Helgasker, and he's confounded as you're yelling at him, and he's pissing and fumbling for another spear to instead of throw downs with relative safety, now has to fight in melee for his very life.
Drop the weapon and you could be a throw. And that's doing.
His fight response has already kicked in at this stage, but further events may compromise that stance. Tirfi has a mouthful of sand and blood and dies. Cole will try and gut you with one of these throwing spears. He'll grab it in two hands and try and pierce your belly with it, but it's easy to swat aside. Aki will disengage from you and Thrymnir and the other Skullsmen and run through the fray towards the town. He'll use his full movement, so they'll put him 30 foot or so from you, running away from the slaughter. After Aki, it's Thrymnir's turn.
And Thrymnir will reach down to the wound in his thigh where he's been stabbed and bring up his hand with the blood on it, give it a lick and a smile towards the old man, and then try and cut him down. It's an R23.
That hits.
And it's 12 damage.
Yeah, it shreds through the boiled leather and cuts him beneath, grinding off a bone before you can put your boot to his gut and haul it free of him. Blood spills out and leaks from the corner of his mouth and out of one of his nostrils, but the old man does not fall. Are you familiar with the actor Peter Mullen? Well, that's who this guy is. And the Ulf and Isklofin will set to butchering Skapti. He'll take 12. He's bloodied as they just stab him twice mercilessly, closing in on around him now. And the others will scramble up the tower with Jorah and try and butcher Cole alongside you, Ingvar. 2 hits he takes. 4 and 10. And Cole gets like stabbed in the side of the neck and then once in the gut by Jorah, and he lives still though he's bleeding out and doesn't know that he's will soon be in the corpse hall. Two of the men, if you shout out at them, Ingvar will rush towards the lad. They'll use their movement and dash to flank him, and then it is Skapti's turn.
Are there guys on top of the tower now where I am? Can we see the guy running to the town?
Yes, but when he takes his next turn, he will move so far away, and since it's dark, that you'll lose sight of him.
Okay, so we'll be able to throw a spear at him
after he takes his first action to continue fleeing, presumably.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Skapti will try and take you to Corpse Hall with him, or maybe even purchase himself a ticket at your to Valhall at your expense. And Thrymnir will attack twice with the spear. The first is pitiful. The second is nearly a crit, and most certainly a hit. But pitiful in damage. The old man doesn't know that he's already dead. You take 6 piercing damage.
Okay.
And after Skapti, it moves to Ingvar.
I'm going to pick up the dead boy's spear and throw it at Aki as he runs. It's an important throw. It's a 16 on the dice, a 21.
That hits.
That'll be 9.
Can you roll a d10, please, Lord?
Oh, God. Yep. A 3.
Yeah, the arrow takes him just below the lung, but stuns him in agony, and he'll be stunned until the end of his next turn.
I'll just bellow for someone to get him.
I'm going to say at this point that he's flanked and stunned and nearly dead. That he is indeed. They'll just cut him down in the night. TFE is slain. Cole now too is slain. Aki was slain. Cole will provoke opportunity of attack from yourself and Jura and one of the other warriors in the watchtower with you to like crawl on the ground, leaving a snail trail of blood, and to the ladder and try and flee his fate. So Jura and the other man will certainly take their opportunity of attack.
Yeah, I got a crit on him. Fucking disgusting.
Yeah, you drive the remaining throwing spear down through his head and into the beneath the slats of the other watchtower that you stand on. One of his eyes turns inward. And then Thrymnir, it's your turn.
I will scrap it so keen to see the corpse hall. I'll oblige him. 21 to hit this time. Bring the axe down. Not great damage, only 6.
6 is the magic number to take him to 0. Describe his ending.
It's just a simple as he swings with this spear back and forth, and from there just steps to the side and brings the axe down on the back of the man's head with a sickening crack. And he watches the man's eyes rolls back in his head until there's nothing but lights, and then pull his axe free and let the body fall.
It becomes very quiet, but for the wind.
I'll order silence for like a full minute to see if we can hear anything from Helgasker, because there was some shouting. And if it seems that that's not the case, I'll gather everyone at the base of the tower and in for just go over again what the plan is.
And if there's dogs and men at the docks, says one of Skull's men, Hjolmfred, we charge and kill them?
We charge and kill. We're trying to cause as much chaos as possible. We want to set fires. We want to make as much noise as possible, get everyone freaking out and panicking, get them all there as quickly as possible. We want them to send every warrior in Helgasker to the docks. But we have to make a fire big enough that the ships can see, or else we're fucked.
It'll be a hard thing to make our own fire, Lord, but we can find some in the docks or the village to burn the place.
We have to, or else we're dead.
These men are ready, aren't you, boys? And a couple of them will smile up from their work looting the slain Asblothers.
All right, killers, let's go.
So Rake and Digret, you guys are waiting and can just hear the gentle like creak of the three sea wolves as they like lull in the water. The river like it gushes about, and you can hear the sound of men in armor moving about, mutters of encouragement, and sense general apprehension. Eventually, Folky Two Teeth will give a low whistle and move over to like a bulk of people, yourselves included, and point off to the distance, where you can see, other than the few faint spot fires of like Helgasker, like the town greater, a larger one like growing up, and can hear now too the sounds of horns blowing and shouts carried occasionally on the wind. And the tide of men behind you begins to column forth down from the decks across the bridge and charging through west into the heart of Helgasker. The first couple of people either side of you that your bulk force comes across can offer no resistance and are caught completely unawares as some people run about in abandon, others rushing down towards the docks to tend to fires, like the general clarion clamour of fire, fire, and much alarm and sounds of horns coming from the Helgasker fort. You can see other folk, those not fit for helping with the problems at the dock, rushing, like occasionally making their, not occasionally, but like of occasion you come across them, rushing towards the palisade to be like isolated and captured by your forces, or cut down as they run. The approach of so many men, even with surprise, cannot fail to be but noticed. And as your like steely column charges in from the west, cries go out, and you can hear like the painful groan of the wooden doors of Helgasker Fort begin to close, and then in a more horrid, mournful wail of several people screaming up, begging to be let in, as Stigorm orders his men forth and to rush in, butcher them down, and take their place on the causeway. This flash, this like smile of cruelty comes across his face. You see it in the occasional flicker of more rising flames or glow in the distance. And at a moment, Skull gives like a wolf's howl, and several of his men begin to like rush forward into the surrounds of the fort. Once the doors close up at your approach, begin to sow discord or flame where they may.
So the doors are closed, but some of the force did go down towards the beach.
Yep.
Okay. If the gates are closed, then Ygritte will yell at them to, will yell at some of their men to head towards the beach and to flank whichever force has gone that way.
Stigorm shouts over the clamour, "I'll stay here and see if the runt comes out." And Skull will like call his men to follow him, and they'll bring up your rear as the Sjohestur crew fall in alongside Baldur's daughter.
Ygritte bares her teeth at him. That is not the plan we agreed to.
They are peasants, fodder. They'll be easy killing for murderers such as you. I'm wary of my brothers Huskarls and bright men to come across this causeway. Do not chide me in the strategies of warfare, woman.
Then I will stay.
He gives like a dismissive wave, and Skull and his men will like rush south down into the town greater, intending to flank whatever force has come out against Blackhand.
Ygritte is looking to see which direction Rake is headed.
So if I'm understanding the plan correctly, we're supposed to head down towards the docks as well to try to like pincer anybody who's gone in that direction.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then yeah. Rake would heed the plan as it was given, and begin to take him and whoever else he was responsible for down in that direction, hoping that the you said they closed the gates seeing us come, but people have probably gone out of it before that.
Yeah, the
So-
gates were open when you guys approach, and usually they'd be closed at night time, which would have told you that they would have been thrown open to let people in and out before like the large force of your own was like spotted.
Yeah, so seeing, having seen and known that, Rake would call out to any of their men, to the docks, we meet them, and the rest of our band.
They'll give like, oh, Sjohestur, and they'll fall in like a rough wedge behind you and begin pouring down south towards where the dock fires are beginning to spread. Well, not dock fires, I should say. There are hovels aflame. Like you can just go in and like kick down central beams so that the roofing collapses into the hearth, and flames take care of the rest. You can see many of these instances around as many of Skull's men like rush forward either side to like run into buildings for loot or to like cause fires or like cut down any who try and resist them. You would see backlit by the flames of hovels near the docks where a force of feared, many amongst them sporting like armor, helmets, or shields, which I guess would be surprising to you and some others. Your force seem to have like penned around a group of men you would imagine to be Ingvar and the rest, backing them up against the sea and slowly moving to form their long thin line into a semicircle around them. And like a mournful wail goes up from their ranks when they hear the sound of Skulls, Ulfednar, and your own wedge rush down the shore to smash into them by moon and firelight. And I'll get an initiative roll from all of you guys. Taylor, am I imagining it right that, or reckoning it right, that you stayed alongside Stigorm at the causeway?
Unhappily, but yes. She's very frustrated that he's not following the plan, but she will not leave their ally unprotected.
When a group of Feardmen, led by a lone warrior, rush forward to try and liberate the causeway, and Stigorm splits his force into two, one to guard the causeway, the other to deal with these refugees trying to gain entrance into the Helgasker fort. Do you stay with him at the causeway, move with his men to defend it at the side, or like stay with inside of both of those things? But or what would you
I'll
like
stay
to
near Stigorm. Her plan is to be within a few steps of him at most times.
Yeah, in his pig-headed way, he's quite dismissive of you, and so will just go about his business, even as you like lurk nearby. Though Wolfred certainly will give you more than a few wearied, questioning looks.
Would it have been possible, Nico, as we're approaching, because I have a couple of like weapon enhancement abilities, for me to have done that as we're storming down the beach, like
Yeah, for sure.
pre-initiative?
Yep.
Yeah. So as we're charging down, then Rake's gonna like lift up this hammer that he's been given, this finely crafted Sjohestur hammer with Odin's eye on it. And like as he like finishes a stroke, a rune stroke across it, it'll like burst into flame, and also begin to emit this like bright white light from it, the simultaneous. And I'll just shout out, "With Odin's eye alight, the gods shine upon us. Victory is ours, is guaranteed."
Rad. The men take heart from the words of the rudemen and give a final roar before the smash and the clamor. Yeah, you can. While they're doing that, I'll just describe to you, Ygritte, that you can see how Stigorm does not shy away from the fray and will go with his men after the causeway is seen to, just like slaughter any peasants or fearedmen who were trying to rush back into the safety of their lord's hall. Down on the beach, flames in front of you, and like the silhouettes of warriors rushing down into the slaughterers. You can see in front of you, Blackhand, and behind you, the lashing waves of Ran's halls, whipped up by the wind this night. Men like screaming all around you. A couple of your own and Skull's men fallen down as the first of these resistance in proper had caught you here. But now the real slaughter begins as Snorrison's call heralds the approach of your reinforcements, and the enemy is hemmed between your two forces, your smaller sabotage force and the larger shield wall of the Sjohestur and Skull's walls behind it. You can see, similar to my overlay, there's like a tall, brawny man in the midst of Anthrimnir and yourself, and he has this swathe about him by virtue of this huge axe that he's been like hewing around him with, leaving like a few gutted men in his sway, and he's like bellowing as he does so. He doesn't appear to wear armor, but has some strength in his like large arms. In the center of the force, not too far from where I imagine you would be, Ingvar, there's a man girt with like a chain shirt, wielding hammer and shield, and he has like a Huskar's helm over him, barreling for his men to stay calm and to form around him. Nearby to him fights a hoary old man with a chain vest, tattered black cloak. He bores wounds upon him and has a spear sprouted out of his back, but still fights on, throwing curses with his gravelly voice in between his like hewing of men. There are other various like fearedmen, rickety youths, or like poxy old men with like shaking spear hands, all about as menaces here in the slaughter. What do you do?
Ingvar will scream, "Come on, you cunts! I'm gonna get in there and fuck your daughters!" And just like try and insult these men and get them terrified. He's like screaming insults as best that he can and like losing his shit and like foaming at the mouth to try and like frighten these peasants. And then seeing like that our forces are coming behind, he's going to rush forward and he's going to leap at this big man with Huskarl's helmet. I'm going to attack him a bunch of times. So I've got a hatchet and a Sayax and no shield.
Balls to the wall.
Yeah. And I'm going to attack him once, twice, and I'm going to use the old one too. So 4 times basically. First one.
As you rush free of your shield wall and clash into this mysterious or this helmeted warrior, men instinctively move from about the clamour nearby to you to give space, and a few even watch on as the duel of bright men plays out.
Yes, that's what I want. First one's a 19.
19 hits.
Second one is a miss for sure. Third one is a 20.
20 hits.
And the fourth is a 18. Nice rolls.
That hits.
Okay. So I used my old 1-2 feature for the Reaver to get those extra attacks.
As you like miss 2 of the attacks, men around him will begin to shout, "Arnor! Arnor! Arnor!"
Did I miss 2 or just 1?
Oh, sorry, I thought you made 4 attacks and hit twice.
I thought I hit
17 is his AC. Maybe
yeah,
it was 3.
I got 17, 19, and 18.
Okay.
Okay. So, this is going to hurt.
Arnor! Arnor!
So 8 and 7 and
15.
8 and 3 is 11. So 26. Yeah, from 3 attacks.
Yeah, like the 2 hacks, 2 hatchet strike.
Sorry, Nick, it's much more than that because I have what do you call it? The +2 damage when one-handed weapons. So it'll be an extra +2 to each. So +6.
6 on top of that would leave him. Yeah, you like hack into this man. Your hatchet bites twice, cutting through like the rim of his shield, and like splitting his chin with 1 strike, and then you hack down over the top of the Sayax and strikes into where his neck meets his shoulder, and blood, hot and vital, wells up after that as you strike rich upon his flesh. He groans, and like pink froth begins to spill out from beneath the nasal helm and clings like sea-washed spume in his beard as he like coughs violently from your assault, nearly slain by you single-handedly in this instance from those 3 blows.
Yeah, he'll laugh like a maniac and spit in the man's face and like roar up at the sky.
Oswald the Hoary sees this and thinks that many of the younger folk in the Fjord might flee this if Arnor falls, and so will like move from where he is to try and bolster the younger warrior. And he will. He'll use his war axe. He'll put himself next to Arnor of Helgasker and adjacent to yourself, Ingvar, and try and hew down with his war axe. For a 16 and a miss.
Is there a man standing next to me or adjacent to me? An ally?
Yeah, and Thrymnir, I imagine,
Okay,
as
so
your
then-
Helgaskr.
So then 16 doesn't hit.
Okay. So he like strikes out twice, and like the second blow maybe is like blocked by the haft of Thrymnir's axe or the pilfered spear. But he does not score you yet, does the hoary old man. Rake, you're the next to act. You've smashed into the back line of the enemy force and can see the weak thralls and Fjordmen packed in there as your quarry that you must cut through to reach your own lord in the pincered center.
All right, so just to kind of get an idea of how this is laid out. So I would assume that I could see Ingvar and these kind of two people that look like they're more warrior folk. Are they feared men between us and them? Like, could I reach
Yeah.
the named men, or would I have to get
You have to
through them
cut through
first?
a line of men to get to their rear. Yeah,
Yeah.
the rear of their force is where like the weak or like less competent warriors are, and that's where your men have smashed into. But still, you'd have to like puncture through them to get to the named warriors, so to speak, where the duels happen in the center
Alrighty.
of the shield scream.
So real quick, so I can know how I should describe this, I'm gonna need one of the feared men then to make a strength saving throw.
Okay.
It's kind of to an attack, but I'm guessing a 23 is gonna hit them.
Yeah, it hits. He fails.
Oh, he failed.
Yep, 9.
Perfect. So Rake is gonna like charge in. He's going to shout. Even Thor himself will send your men into ours, and he's gonna like bash one of these feared men with his hammer. Um, First of all, dealing 18 damage, a mixture of fire,
Splits the
bludgeoning,
head's
and
man like
radiant.
a melon. His brains like
Um,
sprayed into the face of the man in front of him.
Yeah. But additionally, he's also going to be sent flying 15 feet towards our men on the other side, as the power of the rune of my hammer sends him flying.
Brutal.
Obscene display of force as Thor propels him into the arms of our own men.
I imagine there's like a whoosh as you hit, and he like is flung up, and then just like collapses down into the sand with the sound of breaking bones, spreading like guts and blood in his flight.
And I'll just like let out another just like howl of almost glee at the runic force of just savagery
Brutal.
that's been displayed. Laughing and like looking over towards Ingvar from across the back of the battle.
Yeah, and
that'll be my
Thrymnir,
turn.
you hear this cry of the Sjohestur, and then a moment later, a boom as Rake lends his weight to the fight. One of the enemy goes flying, and you can see men being cut down all around you, slaking Rand's thirst. What do you do?
I just stokes the flames of fire that's burning in his belly at the battle right now. As he sees Oswald coming across, he'll swing wildly for him while scream laughing for a 15 to hit.
He brings his shield up, and clung, your weapon is rebuffed by the boss of it. Yeah, 15 will not strike Oswald the Hoary. Was there anything else you wanted to do checks?
No, that's it.
Okay. So Enthrim's weapon rings off the boss of Oswald the Hoary for now. He'll rebuff and try and hack down with his war axe into you. No, because he'll take your strikes on his shield with his other hand and war axe strike down into Black Hand. One is a critical fail, but it doesn't shatter the weapon.
I don't mean to throw everything too off track, but didn't he already go because we actually skipped checks?
Oh, of course, yeah, that's what I got. My bad, my mistake. The Feardman is the guy who was cutting a swathe about him. Seeing Arnor sorely beset, will like step over like a dying, one of Skull's dying warriors and try and bring the axe down into you. Ingvar, 17 on the die will be a 21 to hit.
That'll hit.
A 1 on a d10, 3 piercing damage, 3 slashing damage you take. Maybe you like veer back right at the moment, it bursts a few links and like scores across your chest, but doesn't bite in and break bone or organ.
Ingvar will cackle as he feels the wound, and he'll just like laugh in the man's face. There's like definitely blood all over his face, and he's like frothing at the mouth, and he's just like, losing it.
The Feardman with his ads for like flensing seals and whales and such will like grab it in 2 hands and give a butcher's strike overhead down at you, Rake, after he clears the grey matter of his companion out of his eyes. This another natural 1. The weapon doesn't shatter, but you bring your own up the maul to rebuff it, and it like scatters from his hand such that he has to reach around in the guts and sand to pick it up once more, shaking more so this time. That was Thrall. Arnor of Helgasker is next. This warrior, like blood pouring out of him, and like every breath is like a wet wheeze now. Clutches his weapon all the tighter, and will try and go to Valhall and take you with him, Blackhand. He swings first for a 18 to hit, and second for an 18 to hit.
2 hits.
2 hatchets, so 5 and 3 slashing damage. And when he like bites him with the second strike, he gives up in to the night air, and like blood flecks up as his life force fast is fleeing him. After Arnor of Helgasker, Ygritte. Yeah, you can watch Stigorm and his men easily like cut down these confused peasants, or like hastily like thrown together Feardmen in the streets. And beyond them, backlit by the watchtowers of the Holdfast, the defenders watch on without defiance to what's happening to their township. You can hear further from here the clamour of fighting down on the beach.
Ygritte is very frustrated that they're not down towards the beach, and she'll just grit her teeth, but try and be kind of circling, not obviously around Stigorn, but making sure she stays within sight of him, and trying not to meet the eye of I'm going to forget his name.
Wolfred. Okay. Ingvar, you're the next to act.
Okay, so I've rolled in advance. I've made 2 attacks. One with the Sayax and one unarmed attack, which are D6s as a Reaver. And I did 12 with the first and 9 with the second.
So 12 near takes the man's head off at the side with the Sayax, and Arnor of Helgasker just like falls down like a spurting mess. The second strike does 9, did you say? So that will be on Oswald the Hoary, who like moans, bemoaning the fate of Arnor, and will like step over him as he dies so that his body cannot be tormented. But from the wounds that it was done to him before. Okay. And Oswald is like obviously wounded to you, but is not slain.
As like this hero dies, he'll like call out to the men around him, like to the Feardmen. This is the best of you, and I fucking piss on him. Flee!
A moaning boy with like blood spilling out his nostrils is trying to crawl away from like the slaughter above as men stomp and curse, and Thrimnir, you're the next to act.
And Thrimnir will just add to the battle down with ring of blade on shield again as he wildly swings and misses.
With the miss, Oswald will feint into it and try and strike low, aiming for you like knee or foot with his war axe for a 16 to hit. And a crit.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
Oh shit.
Okay, it's going to be 7 slashing damage. Sorry, 8 slashing damage. And can you please roll a D100, Lord?
93.
Oh, you suffer 1 level of exhaustion. Oh, and take 5 necrotic damage. He strikes you with extreme force, with a strength belied by his like old appearance, and the axe bites deep, cutting through the board leather and into like the gristle of your knee. You nearly like topper over from the 5. I just read Lloyd's comment. From the pain. Yeah, I said 5.
Fuck, are you dead?
Very close to it.
Yeah, so blood's like spurting out of your knee, and he like twists the axe painfully and like pulls it back to his grasp, ready to die fighting. Rake, you're the next to act. You can see this like shaking thrall before you, trying to menace you with his adze, and then behind him like a larger man with a woodsman's axe, wielding it around, cutting swathes around him, leaving men like bubbling blood, giving like a war song as he goes. What do you do?
Does this Axeman look a lot worse worse for our cause than the thrall, I'm guessing?
Yes, certainly. You'd be able to get into the axeman around the thrall without provoking opportunity to attack, but it might lead you to being flanked by the fearedman.
Yeah, I think it's worth it anyways. Like seeing this thrall attempt but fail to hit him, Rake will just kind of storm past him. Seeing this man menacing with the axe, bring his hammer up to bear, and try to strike him down. It's going to be a modified 20 with the pre-roll.
Yeah, that certainly hits. And the man's wearing no armor.
Alrighty, and he'll need to make a strength saving throw as well to not be tossed about.
That
But
he might be able to do. 12. 12's probably not going to do it.
Nice. No, I think my save DC is 14 right now. Yeah, so he's gonna take 18 damage as well, of fire, radiant, and bludgeoning, as this rune enchanted hammer bashes into him. It's gonna send him flying 15 feet back in towards the rest of our crew. So just let out another shout, seeing men fly.
Yeah, he's like thrown forcibly into the air and lands behind your line, and Thrymnir and Ingvar. You hear like the groan and like the sound of movement telling you this one, like the other, is not dead as he like rises behind the line, but nearly slain. Oh, just double checking. That was on the woodsman. Hey, the guy with the big axe.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, sweet. Yeah, he's very badly bloodied, but not slain from that. And my initiative order, Rake the Feardman. So this guy will like get up groggily, like half dazed, and seeing himself like much wounded and cannot flee into the ocean, will try and go down by taking whoever this bright lord in front of him is, by hacking into your back, Ingvar. And since you're engaged with Oswald, I believe, he'll flank you for a 14 all up and a 14 all up.
Both miss.
So you hear him coming and like duck as the first one whooshes over your head, and then with that bonus you have of being next to people, and Thrymnir maybe like offsets the man's strike, so the second one does not hit you either. He'll stay right where he is. The shaking thrallman will try and take what glory he can by stabbing you in the back like a dog, Rake. And it's 16 on the dice, 18 to hit. Will probably hit.
Yeah, that's exactly my AC.
Slashes with his adze for 4 slashing damage, painfully into your shoulder. Arnor of Helgasker is well slaughtered. Yeah, Grit, I assume you're doing the same as before. All eyes on Stigorm. Okay. Ingvar, you're the next to act.
Okay, so just to be clear, Anthrymnir is not at 5 levels of exhaustion.
No, that was 1 level of exhaustion. Sorry if I said 5. That
No,
I
that's
must have
fine.
misspoke.
No, I'm making sure because otherwise I'd go to his aid. But he seems to be fine. Then I will turn and I will unleash 4 attacks using the old one too again on this old hoary bastard.
Okay.
Oh jeez. Okay, the first one's a 15. Second one's a crit.
15 misses, but yeah, crit's a crit.
And then 3 on the die misses and 17 on the die hits.
Hit. So crit and a hit.
So the crit is
painful.
Yeah, it is going to be painful. It's going to be 9 plus 6 is 15 from the crit, and Jesus, my damage is out the. It's just insane. We're doing it right. Yeah, it's the +2 to damage rolls.
Adds up.
Craze.
Is that all the damage?
Sorry, yeah. So it's 15 from the crit, and then 9 from the normal hit.
All right. He's very badly brutalized, nearly slain. And can you please roll a D100, Lord?
76.
76. You knock him prone with the force of your blow. So he's badly wounded, nearly slain, and mewling down on the ground.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so again, he just like hack. And then this one falls down. He like turns back to the Feardman, like sticks out his tongue and like towards them.
And Thrimnir, you're the next to act. Behind you, in your like crazed and wounded state, you can see that wild axeman fleeing with abandon at your lord, and in front of you, the hoary old warrior down amongst the struggling. What do you do?
Well, one good turn deserves another with the Oswald, the one that delivered the brutal wound to myself. Yeah, he's gonna kind of stagger and drop to one knee and bring his own axe, crushing against Oswald's shin, hopefully.
He's prone, so you have advantage.
Oh, he's prone. Close. 21.
Yeah, that certainly hits. He's on 3 hit points, so I assume you can't not kill him. So I'm going to say that the axe bites in just above his knee, cuts the leg off, and a great gout of blood is how his life force leaves him. Screaming, clutching at his ruined stump as you like step over him and further on into the slaughter.
I'm going to pick up his leg and take it with me.
I know that axe then.
Yeah, I know that sounds weird, but scare tactics and all that.
Fair enough. Don't argue with a man with a leg in his hand, my mum always told me. Oswald dies. Rake, you're the next to act. You see this this thrall force beginning to dissipate now and splinter as like the 2 men holding it together are butchered from your flanking maneuver. Foes nearby to you can see is like the Shakespeare thrall and the man that you struck last time 10, 15 feet from you, hacking into your captain.
Yeah, Rake will loom over this thrall with a menace in his eyes. The shining, flaming hammer still in his hand. Will coldly bring it up and try to return the favor against the spear wound he's just taken.
He sees his death in those flames, methinks.
Yeah, it's going to be a 22 to hit.
Yeah, that hits.
And it's going to be 14 damage.
Yeah, it staves in one side of his chest. He gives like a wet pink cough and just crumples down like a hacked limb from a tree. And you still have your movement and bonus action left. If you wanted to, you could move up to flank that maniac attacking your Jarl, or move to assist what appears to be a badly wounded Thrimnir. or whatever else you wish. But otherwise, it'll be the end of your turn.
Yeah, I don't have any bonus action abilities. I think at least none that apply now. But I will. Seeing the peasant wall dispersing, as our force takes over, will run to the aid of our captain. Flanking alongside with Ingvar.
Okay. Thrall is dead. Feardman. So this guy goes on Feardman's turn. The woodsman, beset by 2 foes, he'll swing out wildly at the both of you. One at you, Rake, is a miss for a 10 all up, and the one on you, Ingvar, is going to be a 17 all up, which will probably hit.
Yeah, it will.
1 on the D10 again. 3 slashing damage.
Yes. Odin
what's
smiles.
The big man swooshes, but you like step such that your armor absorbs most of the blow, and though it scores upon your flesh, it like does not fell you like it would a stationary piece of wood. This man will. Would he flee? In my head, he's like a father or family man, like fighting the enemy down on the beach to give his family time to run to the hall, not knowing that hall is cut off by Stigorm's men. So he'll fight to the death and stay right where he is. The thrall dies. Arnor is dead. Ygritte is watching Stig. So Ingvar goes back to you.
Okay, more slaughter. This peasant who dares, I'm going to turn around and kill him. Hopefully,
you'll have advantage on him because his rakes come up to flank him.
Glorious.
Literally cut through the enemy line into the middle where you are.
So 17 on the
like
first.
Sauron. Yeah, that hits. The guy's on 3 hit points, Lord. Okay. So
yep. So then I guess I'll just like shove the Sayax in through his mouth, smashing some teeth, and to the side, and then I'll pull back, and then I'll lash out with an elbow at whoever else is around me. Is there anyone else I can hit near me?
Yeah, there would be, but they're cinematic peons for you to like butcher as you please at this point.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll grab one of the nearby thralls by the beard and like smash my forehead into his nose, and lay about me with death.
At like the final straw being the death of that woodsman, the thralls, freemen, and any like warriors here begin to like throw down their arms and kneel, hands up, or like run away into the dark, either towards the hall or set further south down the coast. It's kind of just like a wild panic that's difficult to corral given that there's flames and slaughter about and it's nighttime.
I don't know if we have the men to watch these men while we battle the other men, so we might have to kill them. Is what Ingvar is thinking, and I think it's clear in his eyes as well because he's got his blood up. Though I don't know what's happened at the gate. So I guess for now, take their weapons, pile them all up somewhere, and bind the men's hands, and like tie them to a post or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, a couple of Skulls men will like prod these like wounded men who have surrendered into like a briar so that just a couple of them can guard them from either side with weapons. So it's not take up too many men. And there are like men pleading from both sides of the fight for help or their mothers from the ground that they cannot rise from. After what forces you have left here, which so far has like light losses on all accounts. Some semblance of like order comes over those men who are still fit to follow orders, and they begin to fall in around you after the prisoners are seen to, and the wounded have been like dragged away from danger. Yeah, and I guess at this point you would see the full reckoning of Anthrimnir's wound, like his shattered knee.
I don't know if Ingvar can do anything about that. He'll squat down next to him and look and sort of shake his head. It's bad business. Can he still walk?
What is the actual mechanical? Is it
1 level of exhaustion, which is disadvantage on ability checks? So I guess you can still walk, but don't expect you to carry anything or to dodge nimbly or anything like that.
And things, when you ask him if he can walk you, because I imagine he's probably sitting down or lying back, he'll stand up with a grimace Just more of a show of, even if I have to drag myself for getting this done.
That's about what Ingvar expected, and he'll nod. He'll look around to the others and see if Skull is around. He'll look now to see there's no Stigorm here, and like ask Skull what the fuck.
He's at the hold on the causeway. Half his men hold it in case the worm sullies out. The others are butchering refugees who would try, or warriors who would try to make their way into the hold fast.
It wasn't the fucking plan, he'll mutter to himself. And it's another reason that he wants to kill Stigorm. Right.
It's about this time that you notice that Ygritte's not with the forces. It's like you look around and look through the slain as well.
Oh, yeah. Where is she? Skull?
He shrugs, not knowing. He gave a wolf call and like belted down to the shore as ordered. But Rake was there.
Yeah, Rake will like approach and hear you call that out. He'll like clasp you on the shoulder and give kind of a reassuring nod. She stayed with shit, I'm forgetting his name. The other guy who's back there. Sigorm, yeah. She stayed with Sigorm. She will kind of like lean in close to ensure that the din covers any larger thing. Ensure the plan was kept to, or at least seen.
Good. He'll like sigh, relieved. And then we'll look at the men and like see that we haven't lost that many. And that even the injuries that we have are not so bad. And he'll think that's probably a victory. And then he'll say, to the gates then?
Skull will nod. Aye, says Holmfred, patting you on the back and moving amongst them. Come on, you bastards! And men will begin to form up and rush up to the rise away from the shore and towards the holdfast. As more spot fires like flare up and the hovels down near the docks well and truly take a blaze, it creates a glow such that you can see a few beleaguered refugees protected by what appears to be a Huskar and a few Feardmen who are like just standing out of spear throw range of Stigorm's divided force at the causeway. They've been like waiting there, like aiming to try and get in somehow, but seeing your force approach up from the shore by the glow of the fires, they just flee. They flee to the west and to the farmsteads that way. And it's easy at this point for your men to like roust out anyone in hovels or houses or briars nearby and to like form them as like weaponless groups girt by a few bloody warriors and reconvene with Stigorm's force. His shield wall of 20 men or less, less a couple from fighting, would part, and he would step through the middle of it to see you welcome back to his force. Note that your numbers look sound and that you like bear honourable wounds and are bloody. He'll give like a smile and like a respectful nod. Victory is within our grasp, friend.
Luckily, we didn't need you.
Aye, and luckily I stayed, and he'll point around at the dozen or so slain here.
Wasn't the plan, Stigorm?
The plan changes when the shield screen begins. You must know this. Look, and it was for the better. And by look, he means like he's only lost half a dozen men, if that, and so have you and Skull.
Ingvar knows that like that is lucky, and that's not by his design. If things had gone differently, we'd all be fucked because he didn't listen to the plan. And so he won't make a thing of it now because it won't help. But he'll just give him a look of like, we both know that you broke your word here. What now? How many are inside?
He like shrugs and like spits, and you can hear like a youth like screaming in the distance for his mother before it's just cut short mercilessly, or mercifully, I should say. And he looks yonder to his brother's holdfast and says, "We should wait for the dawn, and maybe try lure them out or parley."
We have men at the back gate.
We've surrounded the place now. Any who come from the surrounding farmsteads will be proof against them.
I want men on this bridge, and he points like to the one close to the village. On the other side of the landmass, I want men at that bridge too, so there's no surprises.
Skull will take his men and hold the rear bridge, leaving you and Stigorm to hold the front bridge. That'd be 40 at the back and 80 at the front, less your losses so far.
Yeah, I would even just want like 2 or 3 men there to like, if something happens, to sprint back to us to give us advance warning. I also want to keep a big force here in case they sally out.
That's right. It was going to be Hjord and Fromund and others of that ilk who were guarding the rear. My bad. Yep. So that will occur as preordained. And yeah, there's probably 2 score of townsfolk who have been either like taken prisoner by like the wounded contingent of your force, or are at least like hanging on the periphery of it. You know, children or older people not willing to flee this place and go off into the wilds. And they're just kind of horror-stricken witnesses to all this.
Can I look at the townspeople and see who among them they are most often looking to? So I'm trying to gauge like of the people here, like who are they looking to see what's going to happen, like of their own people? Because I'm trying to gauge who might be an alderman or something like that among them.
No, they look to each other and are like fear-stricken, and their body language would tell someone like yourself that there is no leader figure in amongst that forlorn group, and that leader may very well have been slain down on the bloody beach. Like the alderman of the town.
Then I'll just find like the prettiest girl that I can find and skull drag her in front of the gate and begin shouting the guy's name. What is his name? Sigtrig?
Sigthric Bragison.
Yeah. Sigtrig! Sigtrig! And I'll just keep screaming it until someone comes.
Yeah, eventually, like a voice would call across the spiked ditch and palisaded wall down to where your forces have gathered around the holdfast of Helgasker. Aye, what is it, Reaver scum?
We have taken your town. Your people are captive. They don't all have to die. They don't all have to be thralls. I don't have to share them all with my men. You can spare them that fate.
I'd be a fool to trust the likes of you, sea wolf. Do as you will, but you'll not take my father's walls.
I'll turn
Come,
to the assembled
try your men
townspeople.
against me. You will not find us in here wanting.
I'll turn to the townspeople and say, see, he cares not for your lives, and then I'll kill the girl and like chop her head off and fuck it towards the walls. And then I'll say, next.
And that's where we'll take a 6-minute bio smoko break before things take possibly a darker and more grisly turn than they already have.
Oh, it's so fucking miserable being a Reaver.
Do you think we're the baddies?
Yeah, I'll be back in a second.
Yeah, I'm going to take a break and prepare myself for what I might have to describe in the coming hours. But be back in an indeterminate amount of time.
Sounds good. I'm back.
Same.
Oh my god, that's intense. Whew.
Yeah, that was nasty.
I think my strategy now is to ask which of the townspeople have husbands inside the town, and then kill them, or like threaten to kill them, because that'll like put the men in there, like it'll put them in a really uncomfortable position.
like
The
the
Jarl uncomfortable position.
yeah, like the Lord can deny negotiations all he wants, but if every man in there wants to fight
Yeah,
against him to let us in, that could go a long way.
yeah,
If he won't open the gates, then perhaps other people will, in spite of him.
yeah, exactly. I thought Jax was dead. I thought he said 5 levels exhaustion. I was like, oh my god, he's out of the fight. We're done for. Didn't even
I
get
was
to say it.
confused as to why everyone was like freaking out in the chat. I was like, what? Like, is he that low on HP that that's gonna like the 5 damage is gonna kill him? Like,
Right. So I
am I
misheard.
missing something?
Yeah. Although he took a few hits off what was it called? Skapti as well.
Yeah,
That
he's
they fucked
definitely
me
taking
up.
some damage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He was I liked Skapti. I liked him. That Watchtower scene felt real gritty and Isklafty as well.
Yeah, that sort of like desperate brutality rather than like deliberate of just like we just need to
Yes.
get this done now or everything is done.
Yep. Action surging to kill a horse. Like I've never done that before.
Yeah, right.
Reaver is like very effective. It's very, very good.
Yeah, I feel like a fucking superhero. Like,
Yeah, you're ridiculous.
not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I wonder, I just was looking it up, and there's no gate on your conduit as the Galder that I can see. Like, there's no, like, you can do it X times per rest.
I think it doesn't it say it in the actual Seath conduit ability
Oh, it
description?
might. Yeah.
Yeah, you can use your conduit ability once per until 6th level, where you can do it twice per.
Right, okay. That should be a separate paragraph. I'm going to change that up. That should actually be...
Yeah, I think the Velva conduit was once per long rest, if I remember.
But I think hers is more powerful.
They're all once. Well, because the conduit's a shared ability.
Yeah.
So the gating on it is for everybody.
Everybody.
It's once until 6th level when it jumps up to 2.
Yeah. The Galder feels like correct, It feels like,
Yeah,
oh
it's
god,
cool.
this man, who is this magic man with his magic sword?
Magic hammer.
Yeah, it's as satisfying to play as it is to see. I guarantee.
The Reaver, like I have that 1-2 thing that I can do strength modifier times per rest, per long rest, which means that like I can just kill a guy usually, in like one round.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And it'll be worse now when I get my feet at level 4. Let me do extra stuff with my Sayax.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's slowly like a great wailing comes up from inside the holdfast as a few townsfolk are butchered out the front. The gates don't open. And you can see as dawn approaches and by the glow of fires down closer to the shore that figures line the walls, and you can see spears and helmets thrusting up to the approaching dawn.
I would be careful, Nigo, to ask the townspeople who are huddled here which of them has husbands inside the town, who of them have family inside the town, and only to kill those ones. And to make it clear that I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it so like every minute that they don't open the gate, more of their relatives, wives, daughters will die.
Okay, so the townsfolk obviously won't be forthcoming with that, but as soon as Skulls and your men move amongst them and brutalize them, they'll give over that information, which could doom them further. And so after 8 more peasants are slaughtered, a horn will blare inside and the gates will creak open. 4 figures will ride forward. This is probably an hour, half an hour before dawn. So it has that like grey, twilighty feel. And they'll ride out along the causeway, girt either side by like spiked, staked ditch, while warriors beyond look down from the walls.
I'll meet them halfway. I want to take Rake with me, certainly. I probably have to take the 2 other leaders with me, right?
You take whoever you wish at this stage.
Would Stigorm want to go?
Yeah, you can see Stigorm's already like giving his Dane axe over to one of his Asbloth warriors and like taking off his gloves, like his mailed gloves, readying himself to go over on the causeway. Wolfried is like trying to gain his attention and whisper in his ear, but he's like shushing the man away.
I'll let Anthermnir rest as best that he can. I guess we've had like a little bit of time, but I want to let him get a bit of a rest in if he can. And I know Ygritte is likely to spit an insult, and we cannot have that. The shit slang has to be very careful. So I'll take Rake and Stigorm, and no, I'll take Ygritte. I won't. I think I'll leave Skull in charge of the camp.
I think Ygritte can read your face, and she kind of looks at you and goes, "I'll mind my tongue."
Yeah, he gives a look, which is like, do or it's gone.
So after a time, a small retinue emerges from the Isklofen rank, and those so named slowly move forward across the ridge, or the causeway, towards the waiting party. You can see Sigfrid Bragason there by the look of his features and how they so much mirror his brother, who like strides along in your midst towards him. The red and yellow banner of Bragison flaps in the breeze that had carried you men into this bay, or you people into this bay. There's a hard-looking youth behind him that bears this banner, and flanking him there is a shield maiden by a look, auburn hair bound in a thick war pleat, the red tattoo across her face. And on the opposite side, there is a slender man with long brown blades. He has an easy flash of a smile and carries the tattoos of his skin of one wise in cunning lore. And Sigthric will be the first to speak, and he'll like nudge his horse forward a few clops, and will say, and like an older man's voice, than Stigorm's, "Such is your greed that you would bring wolves into our lands." To which Stigorm simply replies, "My lands."
You're dealing with me, Sigtrig.
He'll turn to regard you, his like male coif creaking and the nasal helm obscuring most of his features, so you see the hard eyes at least beneath, flinty and piercing. "And who are you, Seawolf?"
I'm Odin's son.
"You have burned hovels and killed old women. Come and face warriors on these walls."
Odin loves war. He's glad of it in all its forms. So am I. I'm not going to fight you in against your walls. If you were a son of Odin, you'd meet me in single combat. For your town.
Ha! I'm no fool to trust the word of sea wolves. Even if I won, your men and allies would butcher us all, or die trying.
This man here, and I'll point over my shoulder to Rake, is a Galder, and if he makes an oath, it cannot be broken. You fight me one-on-one, no one has to die. None of your men, none of these women, none of these children have to die anymore.
He shakes his head. "I will not fight you. I know that when you were dead, those folk still would harass this region.
Then
I'll
you'll
oblige
die.
you on the walls, if the fates weave it so."
Then I will kill the wife of every man who lives in that castle with you. I will kill all their children. I will burn all the farms, and I will see you starve to death in your castle. You think your walls protect you from hunger?
The gods will curse you, says the woman.
No, the gods love me. They bless me. The gods love the strong. If you were godly, you would know that. If you were strong, you would know that.
Spare your people, brother, says Stigorm provocatively. Sigthric just ignores him, locking eyes with you.
I've no desire to kill peasants. It's not befitting of someone of my stature, but I'll do it if it wins me the battle. And the longer that you hold out here, the worse it will be for those inside. I'll fuck your wife. I'll fuck your children.
Come and take them if you can.
Why did you come out here if you're not going to parlay? Just to tell me that you're not going to do anything?
To gain the measure of my enemies, and to find that my cursed banished brother has returned to try and ruin what he was not fit to rule. And I will show my worth and pledge an oath to the gods to kill you both. Beyond that ditch.
Nothing but shit dribbles out of your mouth. If you're going to use it to speak, at least say something of worth.
Prepare yourself to die. I'll hear no more from you, he says, and will turn his horse. The woman will give a hard look. No, just his banner, but it was obvious by their coming that they had intended parley.
Yeah, I think that Rake would probably be unhappy if I just attacked them. But yeah, I won't.
Yeah, the woman will give you like a baleful glance and then turn her horse to follow her master. And last, after the banner bearers followed them in, the gold-haired man, graven with tattoos and with strange horns hanging from piercings at his body, will look at you appraisingly, Rake, as if trying to discern something from your visage, but turns his horse eventually like a man dissatisfied, and follow the rest in. And the beams of the gatehouses will creak as it's hauled inward again, and with a great goes closed and obscures you from your enemy.
Okay, so I'll have people keep watch, and we'll take a rest and rest our men up. They probably have supplies of food in there, but we have their whole town under control. And every hour I will take another wife or daughter or son up to the gates and behead them.
Okay. What do the rest of you do while this happens?
Egert will help pick out the doomed.
Okay, so you've brought out the third body. This one, an older woman, struggling against you, though not imploring those on the gates beyond to help or spare her or intervene. This one going to her fate without words, it would seem. You bring the blade up and put it across her throat to kill her. As it seems, they'll be reticent once more. But the doors open this time. Ingvar, when the other two corpses thrown down into the ditch, did not. You see why immediately. Egret would too, as she's next to you. And what other small retinue you've brought to the fore of the causeway here to do this public act. And not mounted, but armed and ready, a thin column of bright men with those aforementioned enemies at their fore, march swiftly from the open gates towards the causeway, break into a jog, and then begin to run forward as a horn blares from inside the camp. And they charge towards where you guys are on the causeway in front of your own forces.
I'll shove the woman into the ditch and begin sprinting back to our lines, screaming for everyone to get ready and arm up.
Yeah, your men of the Sjohestur will rush to form up around you. One of the men, Torval, will loop his arm under yours, and Thrymnir, and help you up to your feet after your ankles been bound, and rush as much as he can towards the gathering men. You hear this great shout go up: "Helgaskr, Bragi! And then the clamour begins even as you're like rushing in to form proper shield walls. And the surprise attack plays out as their thin column punches into your prepared line. And there's great slaughter. It's obvious by their intent that they're charging through for the center, and slowly a wedge forms out before the point of impact. They drive deep into the first couple of lines, sending a dozen of Stigorm's men reeling. A few even scramble sidelong and slip down into the spiked ditch to join the sacrifices. And the brutality begins. Roll initiative. So he's going to rush forward to the point of the wedge and drives sidelong with his master and the other bright warriors there into Stigorm's line. He sings a war song that's terrible to behold, and his eyes flash above a braided tattoo that runs from across his face from cheekbone to cheekbone. He pulls out a rune-engravened sayax and slashes down to the foeman even as he sings, and he emboldens his lord with his bardic inspiration. He's going to stand on the left-hand side of his lord, where the banner bearer and shield maiden are, as his lord meets his brother in the center, and great slaughter plays out around them. Your line forms up on the respective right, facing those foe mentioned. And Herfy, seeing your bright mail and marking you from that parley on the causeway as the leader of this third or this contingent, will try and single you out and gain the favor of Odin with his songs and maybe strike you down. He'll slash out twice with the sayax, rushing towards you as you stand amongst your shieldmen and and satisfyingly, you feel both of his sayax strikes thud, first into the center, off center of your shield, and second into the rim. And you feel his like weight heft up against you, though he does not score across you. And all about you, either side, you now hear men like punch into each other, metal on metal, wood on metal, and bone breaking, and men winded in the sound of blood being spilt all about. The scream of slaughter plays out around you. What do you do?
I want to make sure that Stigorm can get opposite Sigtrig. I think they probably want that to happen. So I'm going to try and ensure that's possible. So I'll call out several times that Sigtrig is here. And I'm hoping that Stigorm will come here. I am going to try and kill this singer before he does whatever evil nonsense he's going to spout. So I'm going to hit him, or try and hit him once with my sayax and once with my shield. So 17 with the sayax and only a 14 with the shield.
Yeah, so you like stab into him with the sayax and he grunts, and as you like pull it out and try and bring your shield to clatter into his face, he's already like stumbling back from the wound, and so you miss him with the second strike.
So it's 11 from the sayax.
Yeah, the leather and chain that he sports has saved his life in this instance. It would have certainly been a gutting strike otherwise, so he still lives.
That's it for me.
Screaming out her fury, trying to keep warriors back from her lord, Yadvor will step over one of Stigorm's ruined Asbloaters to try and wedge her way in between where your contingent affixes onto Stigorm's and hack down, attacking at you, Ingvar. But one of your companions stands to that side, protecting you. Who is it?
It's definitely Rake, I think. I would want to be as close to him as possible, having seen what he did in the last battle.
Okay. So she will stand with her lord on the right-hand side, trying to protect him from your contingent, and Herfy on her left, and she'll strike down into you, Rake, after a bellow. She will use she uses spear and shield, does this shield maiden. So it'll actually be 2 thrusts aimed towards the head. It will be a certain miss, and then a 17 on the die for the second, which will be a 22 to hit.
Yeah, the first blow is deflected across with the shield, but the second one
Strikes true. She will stab her spear in, twist it, and then wrench it out with blood spilling over your mail. You will take only 5 piercing damage though from it. And she will lock herself in place there as kind of a pivot line to try and hold your force from overwhelming their Swinehead. After Yadvor Tryggve's daughter, it's Anthrimnir's turn.
Anthrimnir's going to focus on the ache of his wounds and grit his teeth against the pain and let it become his armor, his weapon, his fury, and his enemy's torment. He's going to spend this turn activating his Berserk Gang.
Okay, sure. Working yourself up into the battle fury. Ygritte, on the other side of Ingvar, you see this tattooed singer hacking down into your brother, while beyond the shield maiden joins the fray. And Thrymnir behind you begins working himself up into the battle fury, and all around you the battle now plays out. Oh, that reminds me, sorry to cut you off, Tyler. I need to get you guys to roll on the battlefield environment effects table.
Oh, yes.
Ingvar, can you roll me one? It happens at the end of your turn. You roll a d20.
Okay. A 17.
17, Guile Step. The foes swarm around you while you contend with one, another strikes at your rear. Make an intelligence save, DC 13, please.
I'm not intelligent, but I got a 19 on the die, so it's a
Nice.
18.
Okay. Cool. So you succeed. If you would have failed, the next melee attack against you would have been done with advantage.
Yes.
But you retain your senses as the slaughter plays out. And then Thrymnir, I'll need one from you too, please, Lord. D20.
D20. That's a 1.
Ooh, shield bash. The shield rim of a nearby foe catches you in the face, ringing your senses in the battle din. Make a grit check, DC 13, or be dazed for D3 turns.
Brutal.
Yeah, easily passed up.
Maybe it's right at the end of you just being and while you're not coherent and fighting defensively, someone opportunistically rushes in and drives their shield up under your chin, but rather than buffeting you down, it just kind of is that ding ding that starts the boxes round. But yeah, you're proof against it and not so affected by the battlefield environment effect table. Yep. And now it's your turn, Ygritte.
Ygritte is rarely on the front line of the shield wall, but she's perhaps in the second or third line. And if anyone breaks through, she will absolutely lay them to waste. But for now, she will begin to slowly move just a step at a time closer to Stigorm. She'd started out with Ingvar's men and will begin crossing the battlefield just a little at a time, not making a beeline or anything obvious, but by the time we're in the crush of it, she'll be near him.
So Stigorm's in the center of his line, and Sigthrik is trying to bust through to him and slaughter him. So from where you are, it wouldn't even be more than 30 feet, I'd say. So you could use the disengage action, and then through the cramped conditions, squirming through the difficult terrain, expend your movement to get within sight of him and say 15 feet or less proximity to him. And do you have a bonus action or anything like that for move?
I do, but I will use my bonus action to dodge.
Nice. Okay. So you're edging
and
close to the Stigorm, but you're not adjacent to him yet, and in a defensive formation so that the fray around you is
right.
going.
And if
Cool.
his brother happens to kill him before I get there, perfect.
Cool. Nice. You can roll on the battlefield environment effects table, please. Should it be a dex save? You'll have advantage from
D20?
your... Yep, D20 for it. And you've got the dodge.
20. Now I crit.
20. Out of nowhere, you barely managed to parry an incoming attack from a previously unseen foe. You may have opened up your defense. Roll a dex save, so you'll do this at advantage because of your dodge, or lose your reaction until the end of your next turn.
I lose my reaction.
Yeah, so maybe it's one of the times you're looking over at Stigorm that an errant spear thrust causes you to dodge and it rings your head.
Yeah, I rolled 2 3s. I did not see that spear coming.
And then Sigthric's turn. He will cut down one of Stigorm's Isklofen mercenary warriors and lock blades, or lock axe and blade, I should say, with his brother. He'll reel back with his nasal helm and then headbutt forward, driving the brother back, and then bring his shield to bear to catch the parry on it, and fierce fraternal combat to the death ensues. Sigthrid drawing the first blood. Perhaps that is an omen. Harald of Boa rushes up behind his lord, standing behind the lord and the shield maiden, and so will strike over with that spear over the shield maiden's shoulder and at you, Rake. And it will be a 16 all up.
I'm at 18 AC actually, so that'll miss.
And so a spear thrust comes over the shoulder of the shield maiden that you don't expect, but you catch it at least early enough that you can dodge aside so it doesn't rip into you, and then it disappears back into the clamour. After Harald of Boa, it is Rake's turn.
And Rake is going to see this singer man who's singing this song that seems to haunt the ears of our own people and bolster theirs, and he'll know that he is the one that needs to go first. So if I'm able to, am I within melee of him? Because I was next to Ingvar, so I believe we're in the same area.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to need him to make a strength save then, as I'm going to try to bash him off the side of the causeway and into the spikes.
Oh, brutal. This is Herfy, right? The singer?
The singer, yeah.
Yep.
But it's a 21 all up to hit, so I'm assuming that'll hit.
Yeah, that certainly hits. I'd say he fails this for an 11.
Yep, my DC is 14. So he's going to take 20 damage, and I'll just let out a cry as I just reach over, bash him with the hammer. It's going to send him 15 feet in prone. So if that's enough to get him off the side.
Yeah, it's enough to get him onto the edge. I'm going to give him a dex save to not slide down into it. And that will be a 9 all up. So yeah, you smash him down prone, and then he begins to slide down the slippery causeway and into the spikes beneath. So you can deal him an extra d6 damage on top of that.
That's 4, so that'll be 24 all up.
He's on 22. So we're and impaled through the belly by spikes down amongst the sacrificed, and will sing no more, Herfy of the Vali land.
Yeah, Rake will just look into the eyes of the shield maiden, and kind of clasp at Ingmar with his free hand and just shout, just yell, "Shah!" into their face as their singer is sent flying off the side.
Yeah, Herfy just looks up, can see and hear people fighting on the ridge above, but it's beginning to get dimmer and dimmer, and the sound of his heartbeat louder, but more infrequent. Shield Maiden of Odin descends to take him up across the Rainbow Bridge. Ingvar in the stink. Oh, before Ingvar, I'll get Rake to roll on the shit stink table. D20, please, Lord.
Yes, sir. 20.
20 out of nowhere. That's the dex save, please, Lord. DC 13. Just as you strike this guy and send him down, hurtling into the spiked ditch, someone takes the opportune moment to strike.
Yep, that's 14 on the die, so 15.
Mm-hmm. But you see it coming and step back into the line. all while neatly dealing with Herfy, whose turn it is now to lose. So Ingvar.
Ingvar shouts, "Look here, Odin, it's your favorite son," and unleashes what is a comedy amount of attack. So I did my 1, 2, 4 attacks. A crit on the first, a miss on the second, 20 all up on the third, and a 17 all up on the fourth to hit the Shield Maiden.
I think that 17 is our AC. Just let me double check. Jadvor. 18 is her AC, sorry, so the 17 will miss.
Okay, so then it's 25 damage from the 2 and a crit.
Oh, sorry, and so she'll use her absorb ability when an adjacent ally is hit by a crit. Oh, it's when an adjacent ally is hit. Yes, she's designed to defend everyone around her but herself. So she'll destroy the shield that she holds so that she doesn't take a critical injury.
All right, so 25 damage then.
Still going to brutalize her. She's bloodied.
Sick. Yeah, that's me.
Bring him out to Odin, who watches as you slash down into the Defiant Shield Maiden, Jadvor. After Ingvar, you got to roll on the battlefield environment table, Lord.
Unlucky 13.
Ooh, ringing blow. A blow to the side of your head rings in your ears, blurring the sounds of the spear din around you. Make a grit check, DC 13. Will be deafened for the next D3 turns.
My grit is super good. Only a 12.
Okay, so the next successful weapon attack made against you in this encounter will make you deafened for D3 turns. So if you can remember that.
Okay.
After Ingvar, it's Jadvor. She will try and ring your head after you've sorely wounded her.
So I'm at 19 at the moment because I've got my shield and I'm next to someone.
Takes the action on her turn. She can use bonus action to try and shove a creature. She will try and thrust the spear at you and then shove you prone. It's a crit on the shove prone and a 16 all up on the spear thrust, which is a miss.
Oh, thank the gods. That's the order it went in.
It's a miss and then a crit. And she misses with the first, then the crit. Oh, I see what you mean.
So it's a crit on the shove, not an attack, right?
Yes, that's right. So you make a opposed athletics check with her, DC 25.
Jesus.
Not be knocked prone.
I shit you not, it's a crit. So it's also she wins though because she's aggressive, but also crit.
Yeah, she's a badass bitch. And Jadva, she's thrust with the spear thrust, which would have been a killing blow, but you dodge a side of it. But that opens you up, and she brings the shield up, smash into you, and it sends you hurtling down into the to be trampled in the shield wall. She'll stay right where she is, ready to protect her lord with a reaction if need be. And Thrimnir, it's your turn to act.
As he feels the dread energy course through him, he's going to surge forward. Can he get to Jadvor?
Certainly. You can move in front of Rake so that, because there's that space that was opened up by Herfy being hurled down into the ditch. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can definitely move, expend movement to get adjacent.
That's what I'm going to do then. I'm going to move towards her, and I'm going to pull on any kind of hair or loose, anything I can grab, spear even, pull her towards me and attempt to...
She has that big auburn war braid that I mentioned. It's like a horse tail.
Perfect. I will grab that, put it around my forearm and pull and get her into a grapple, hopefully.
Okay. DC 23.
Oh, I got 22.
So you reach the war braid and reef her head back and thinking quickly, she loosens her grip on the spear haft such that she it falls a little and she grabs it by the head and will reef around with that and begin to saw. And so eventually the braid will just be whoosh, cut free, and then so she can get back to harrying Rake. And then it's a Grit's turn.
So Sigtryk is still en route then?
No, he's fighting with
Stigorm.
Yep. He's wounded Stigorm already.
That's right, he drew first blood last round. Yeah. She's going to Is there someone adjacent? An enemy, particularly?
To him or to you?
To me.
No, because you were moving through the second or third ranks.
Mm-hmm.
But you could expend movement to get adjacent if you wanted to. But I imagine you back a couple of ranks, so not even within range of long spears.
Yeah, I will hold my... Ooh, here's a question. Can I bonus action dodge and still hold my action?
If you can dodge for a bonus action, then yes.
Okay, then I'll do that.
Hold your action, no, but ready in action, yes.
Yes, that's what I mean. So I'll bonus action to dodge for this round, and then ready in action that if anyone breaks through. Is dodge not one of my cunning actions? I'm sorry, am I
Not
misreading
sure.
that?
It's
Traditionally,
dash.
that's a rogue, but I'm not sure in this.
Yeah, disengage, dash, and hide.
Disengage, dash, and hide.
And hide. Oh, forgive me. I was thinking that was dodge. Okay, then I will just dodge as my action.
Okay. And staying where you are, like where you were last turn, 15 feet from Stigorm.
Yeah, I'll move another 5 feet closer.
At that, you feel a weight as the man behind him in the shield wall reaches out with like the butt of or the hilt of his sword pommel, kind of like hits it gently, not gently, but like not as if to punch you, into your arm and like turns, revealing the face of Wolfred. What are you doing here?
If your Jarl cannot kill him, then I will.
Give me a deception check.
I'm gonna try. Oh, baby. Where's my deception? 16?
And can you roll a d20, please, for the battlefield table?
18.
Slick with gore, the foe's lifeblood trickles down, slickening the handle of your weapon, blah, blah, blah. You haven't actually made an attack yet, right?
No.
In that case, though you stand in the eye of the slaughter storm, the skein of your fate is not cut yet. That is the end of your turn. Sigtrick is next, and his shield will be splintered by his brother, and so he's forced to grab his war axe with two hands and bring it down. Stigorm lunges, and it smacks straight through the helm of his brother and into the forehead. Stigorm like spasms, and one of his eyes begins to wildly shake. The weapon drops from his hand, and he to his knees. The weight of his dying pulling Sigthrick's weapon from his hand while still lodged in his brother's. He looks wide, not exultant like you'd expect, but like wide-eyed in horror at what he's done, like the realization of kinslaying. And a great ripple is followed by a moan of Stigorm's fervent followers, including Wolfred next to you, Ygritte, as their bright lord is seemingly cut low. At this, Sigthrick will rush and pick up Stigorm's blade and bring it down again with a hack, near severing his brother's head from his body, and then turn, trying to push in the center now to wrap around and flank, not flank, sorry, but to drive a wedge between your forces, Ingvar, and the other two forces here, the middle one of which now is rattled. And that would put him 10 feet from you, Ygritte, whom he remembered as someone of import from the parley, so we'll mark you as foe. After Sigthrick, Harald, seeing his lord do this, will move since he was back in the second line. He doesn't provoke any opportunity of attack from you, Rake, as he moves around so that he's behind his lord now and adjacent to the shield maiden. It still puts him in spear range with his 10 foot of you, so he'll thrust again with the lord's banner. But you mark his movement and see the spear thrust coming and can bring up the haft of your maul to send it careening wide. Thanks, Lord, for that initiative list. Harold misses, but he's still bearing the banner. We'll continue those effects, and so it is Rake's turn now.
Rake is going to see this bannerman strike at him unsuccessfully as he's able to deflect it, and will then take a step forward and attempt to send his hammer through this man's chest. And that is going to be a modified 20, which I think is going to do it. And that's going to be 15 damage, bludgeoning, radiant, and fire.
Holy moly! Was this on? Were you moving to within range of Sigthric? Sorry, or was this to the Shield Maiden adjacent to you?
Oh, sorry, I thought you said the herald came and tried to stab at me.
Oh yeah, he has a
may have
long pole,
misunderstood.
like a pole arm with the banner on it, and has 10-foot reach. So he stands behind the Shield Maiden and his lord to strike from there. So unless
Okay,
you have
yeah,
reach,
then that would be at the shield maiden then.
Okay, cool. So 15 to her. Describe her ending. Describe the ending of Yadvor Tryggve's daughter, Shield Maiden of Then of Bragi's Spear.
Yeah, so she's already lost her shield, which leaves her open. And there's too many of us. There's two. She's distracted as Ingvar and her trade blows. And Rake will just like from the side bring the hammer sideways across her face, just sending teeth and blood flying as her neck snaps, as her head is just slammed by the force of this bludgeoning blow. And will send her swirling down to the ground.
Grim stuff. Can I get a d20, please, Lord?
Yes, sir. 14.
14. Stumble over the fallen. A warrior is slain before you, and their corpse slumps in your path, threatening to upend your footing. So maybe as you like batter her, she like is sent backwards in the same manner as like a nearby warrior is sent hurling from a grievous wound, and they smash into you. You need to make a dex save, DC 13, or fall prone.
That's a waste of a crit.
Oh damn! Oh well, good for you. Yeah, but as this warrior like smashes into you, you like roll with the force and still remain standing as the fight plays on. After Rake, it goes back to the top and Blackhand.
So I'm not too sure anymore where I am in the, because I think everyone in front of me is dead, because Jadvor and the singer are dead. So
yeah, the line in front of you is slaughtered now. Men are like surging around either side to try and counter the wedge that Sigthric's trying to create. With the expense of not all of your movement, you could get adjacent to either the banner bearer or the Jarl himself, or get around to flank.
Can I get around to flank the Lord?
Yeah, that would be with Wilfred and what's left of Stigorm's line and Ygritte.
Okay, perfect. So I'll like begin pushing my way through and like ducking and dodging. I'll make eye contact with Ygritte and look to Wilfred just for a second, and then I will unleash a round of attacks using my last use of the old one too, flanking the Lord. So I have advantage if I flank.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god. Okay. Yep. So first one is 16 plus 5 for a 21.
Yep. This guy's not so tough without the Shield Maiden next to
Jesus.
him.
Second one's a crit.
Oh. He'll expend his shield to make it a regular attack, or to not suffer a lingering injury. But yeah.
Third one's a 22.
22 hits.
And the fourth one is a 19.
That hits.
Oh my god. So he still takes the damage from the crit, just not the riddle effect.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, oh jeez.
I think so. You wrote this game.
Yeah, he does.
I believe you.
So the first one is 18 damage for the crit.
Yep.
And then the next two is, the next one is 10. Those are the two Sayax hits, and then the unarmed hits, or the shield hits, are, oh my goodness, 9, and then 8.
So 17. Oh, 9 and 8 to hit, do you mean?
No, damage.
Holy shit. So that's 15 and 25?
Something I didn't count it as I was going.
Yeah, I did.
15 for the first, 10 for the second, and then 9, and then 8.
Yeah, 15, 17, so 38. Holy shit. Yeah, he's really badly bloodied. You strike in from behind, scoring many strikes on him, and then by the time he can reel around, you buffet him with the shield, which like hems him in with Ygritte and Wilfred.
You go to the corpse ripper. You should have fought me. I like hiss at him.
Graham. Ingvar, you'll need to roll on the chart d20, please.
11.
Steel wasps, arrows rain down from the walls beyond. The warrior behind you screams as one of the deadly shafts finds its marks. That's another one of yours slain, my lord.
Oh, no.
Steel wasp. And you need to make a dex save DC 13.
Yes, sir. Success.
Cool. Or else take 1d4 plus d3 piercing damage. So arrows begin to like wish down, or maybe like throwing spears from the palisade beyond.
Yeah,
but you,
Ingvar's the kind of man who like ducks and it hits a couple of the other men around him, but not him.
And Thrimnia, your turn. The shield maiden before you is slain, and your forces begin to peel around on Sigthric's wedge. You see your captain and his sister hem in the foe, while Harold, this defiant youth with his banner, valiantly tries to defend his rear.
Yeah, I think the waving banner would probably he'd focus and fixate on that and stalk towards Harold. So yeah, he's got to do that. Charging at the youth, it'll be a 21 to hit.
That hits.
For 8 points of damage.
Okay. Yeah, he strikes out with a spear, but you move in to the length of it, closing in close and slashing into him. It cuts through mail, but does not spill the lad's guts.
And it's a 3 on the d20 for the battlefield.
That is a skein. You stand in the eye of the slaughter storm. The skein of your fate is not yet cut, so no effect. Which kind of makes sense because you're around him behind them now. And the tide has turned. Wolfred has a moment of realization at what he's done in forsaking his honor with Asbloth and his oath to the older Bragi, and falling in with this dog Stigorm, who now the gods judge as unworthy by virtue of having him killed by his brother in war duel. And he hears the lie, even as you easily give it, Ygritte, and will make you the point of his redemption as he rounds to protect Sigthric's left, and in some meek defiance of what is done, try and cut you down by association with the Black Hand for your attempted treachery.
I'm dodging.
He will attack with disadvantage. He rolls a natural 1 on the last, but it does not break his weapon. So he like gives a "you lying bitch" and like tries to hack down with his sword. Whoosh, whoosh! But you step back, expecting and preparing for the worst, which now is eventuated. And it's your turn. Wolfred stands between you, or not between, sorry, but adjacent to you and Sigthric.
Ygritte has her 2 small axes, one in each hand, and she'll cut out quickly at him. It's a 19 and a 18 to hit.
18 is a magic number.
Ah, perfect. And I'm still doing that. Oh, dang, that's good damage. So with my sneak attack, all up, that's going to be 25 from the 2 attacks.
He is bloodied from that, I believe. Yep, he's bloodied. Not expecting like the quickness of your retorts. He's unprepared, and both the strikes find him low, hacking across his thighs, bleeding down into his boots. And he gives that like older, paunchier man's kind of fumble as he's like weight shifts it around you in the fray.
And when I hit him, I'm going to spend 2 points. So one of these hits goes high, and the second one goes low, and I'm going to hamstring him. And I'll spend 2 of my dirty trick points to cut his hamstrings with that bonus action.
Grim. So mechanically, what does that do?
That'll be a grit check or be restrained for a number of rounds for 3 rounds.
You got a 15 all up on his grit check.
That'll make it. So it's going to be half of 3. I don't know if we
1.
round up or down.
So he's restrained for the next turn, which means he can't move and has disadvantage on attacks, and attacks against him have advantage, if I'm not mistaken. And you need to roll on the battlefield table.
Restrained creature speed 0, can't benefit from bonus, attack rolls have advantage. Yep. And
Cool.
that's excellent. Okay, and the battlefield roll 17. Was that what I rolled
Guile
last
step.
time?
I think so.
No, I rolled 18 last time.
Someone's rolled it. Guile step. The foes swarm around you while you contend with one another strikes at your rear. So you need to make it. Lloyd got this one. Make a DC 13 intelligence save, or the next melee attack against you has advantage.
Well, I'm not super smart, but I rolled a 14 on the die. So 14 total. Maybe 16, sorry, because it's a saving throw then. Yeah, 16.
Okay. Sigthric will not attack Wolfred, and seeing Wolfred attacking you will not stop to question this blessing or whatever it is, and so we'll turn to focus solely upon you. Blackhand, I believe you'd come up to him, right?
Yeah, I hit him 4 times and nearly killed him.
Then in that case, he's staggering from the mess and will reel about on you.
Yeah, I forgot I'm deaf, so I couldn't have shouted anything at him, I don't think.
Okay, here he is just ringing. Well, you could have shouted at him, but you just can't hear what he's shouting back.
Partly
he's probably just
intelligible.
swearing and saying, kill, kill, kill. Let me find the Then's stats. Oh, he's not long for this world, is he? He will try and slaughter you, though, as if he's fighting to give something time. And he'll unleash with his Warsay axe in 2 hands for a 15 on both die. So that's going to be a 19 to hit twice.
Those will both hit.
Okay, it's going to be 6 and 6, so 12 slashing all up.
Okay.
Whoosh, whoosh. And that's all he can do. He'll stay where he is. If he moves, he dies. After Sigthric of Helgasker, it's Harald's turn. He'll try and gut you with the spear. It's an 8 point. So he's wounded but not bloodied yet. 17 on the die. So it's going to be a hit. 20 to hit Anthrymnia. It's going to be 5 piercing damage as it punches through the mail and scores off your hip bone. Lightning of Agony shoots up your belly, and Harald of Boa twists it and then pulls the spearhead out. Rake is the next to act.
Seeing his captain march to meet the opponent, the opposing Jarl, and that Anthrymnir has the Herald rightly taken up and distracted, he will turn his attention as well, meeting alongside Ingvar to flank Sigthric and try to bash his face in. And that is going to be a 25 to hit.
It certainly hits right in the back of the head.
And that is going to be 14 damage all up. As the hammer will ring off the back of his helm, perhaps denting it, or if not outright smashing it.
Yeah, it gives a dunk, and blood just sprays forward from his face as it's shattered from behind and douses you, Ingvar. And wriggling, seized with paroxysms of his own dying, he'll drop to the ground, head caved in, and men around him begin to scream, throw down their arms, and spill as Rout spreads its wings over this place.
I'll begin bellowing for men to run around the back. We do have men there, I think, but nonetheless, for men to run as fast as they can. I guess I'm deaf still, but I'll just be going, the back.
Mm-hmm. After the death of Sigthric, end of Rake's turn, I'm going to say that because the enemy has failed now and is in rout, you don't have to roll on the table anymore. And so, Ingvar, for your turn, you're giving command for just for the enemy to be slaughtered and for a detachment to peel off and check the back.
Yep, the detachment to peel off, the Ulf probably, and whoever I think can run fastest, to run around the back of the village to see if they're leaving with all the wealth, and if so, to chase them down. And then I'll Is anyone still alive here? I mean, there's just like the rout happening, right? So we're just
Harold the Bower is like standing trying to protect his lord's corpse with the banner.
Wolfred's still alive, right?
Yep, and he's trying to kill Ygritte.
okay. I'll kill Wolfred then. I'll rush towards him and attack him twice. Once with my Sayax for
Yeah,
a.
you can see his like men are fleeing all about the place as he's like laying into your sister.
I'll scream, traitor! And then I'll hit him for a 20. And
That is.
only a 16 for the second.
I think he still has his shield. Yeah, he does, so that's a miss.
Okay, so 11 damage from the Sayax.
Lloyd, I believe you have advantage.
Oh.
Because I used my dirty trick on him.
That's right. Yep. I'll try that again. Yeah, so then if I have advantage, the second roll would be a 17 on the die, which would be a hit as well. For an extra 8 from the shield.
Okay.
So 19.
He's very badly bloodied, nearly slain. Like maybe he's just like reeling up to like swing his blade down into Ygritte when he's like stabbed from behind and nearly sent to his knees by your brother's onslaught.
Maybe screaming traitor as loud as I can to make it clear that this man turned on us and not us on him.
Nice. Which I guess, as far as you know, is correct, but technically it's false, which makes it even better. And Thrymnir, it's your turn now.
With a spit and shout as he slabbers, he'll bring his axe down in a wide dark for a natural 20 on Harold.
Oh, grim. The damage, please.
Yeah, damage is it's fairly poor. It's an 11.
11. Okay, he's very bloodied. And a D100, please.
Okay. 55.
55 is a... Oh, you can roll a athletics check with disadvantage, but if you have something else that would cancel out that disadvantage, then factor that in. Because you get to do the disarm action because of this attack. The DC you're going for is 10.
Yep. That'll be with disadvantage and exactly a 10.
So you drive your axe into his chest. The wound strickens him so that he drops the banner and it falls like in slow motion as everyone's being cut to pieces around him to fall down into the carpet of writhing death and clutches at the ruin in his chest with both hands. Very bloodied, nearly slain, and now disarmed. Wolfred will unleash his attacks, split them up between the treacherous children of Balder. He'll do one at you. You can have the white dice, Taylor, and you can have the black one, Lloyd. The yin and yang Balderson, Balder daughter. Okay, it's going to be an 18 on the die for you, Taylor, which narrowly means you avoid getting a crit because he has the brutal feature. And you got an 18 on yours as well, Lloyd, which same. So 2 hits, but nothing else. For the war axe, it's going to be... Oh, that's a D10. That's not very nice. 10 to you, Ygritte, and 5 to you, Ingvar, as he just hacks about wildly with his axe as he's slowly more and more surrounded with warriors.
Is he at disadvantage?
Is he?
Because I believe for my trick, wasn't he restrained until the end of this turn?
Oh, indeed he was. My bad. I'll roll the same die again and take the lower. You avoid the crit, Taylor, so still have the 18. And Lloyd, yours will actually be a miss from that, making it an 11 total.
Yes.
So just the damage that you took, Ygritte, which is 10, but none for you,
10?
Ingvar. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Wolfred stays right where he is. It's Ygritte's turn.
So Ygritte will cut at him twice after having taken a half step back from that blow. Non-natural 20 and a 19 to hit.
Both hit.
And I doubt I'll roll as well on my dice as I did last time. Yeah, not nearly so well. Actually, really terrible. So that's only going to be 10 damage.
He's on 9 hit points, so you can describe the death of Wolfred.
Yeah, so it's the half step back, and then as she comes forward, it's the axe into his ribs and the second one into his neck, right, left. With her eyes looking over his shoulder to Ingvar behind.
Harald of Boa will sink to his knees as the axe is ripped out of his chest and scrabble around for the spear, and he clutches it with both hands just as his vision begins to fade, and he is going to mechanically I don't think there is a way, but stuff it. He's going to use his action to give himself advantage on his next grit check, tightening his grip around his weapon, and it is Rake's turn.
All right. Well, I rolled it, so I might as well use it. So 19 to hit, and I, as I said in the chat, rolled max damage, which is 24 points. Hammer
The
blow.
blow collapses his head, like just explodes it, and his body's sent sprawled down to the rest. Let's see if he makes that grit check. Yeah. And so goes Harald of Boa. There's a great roar that goes up from Skoll's men and the Isklofen that were under Stigorm's command, and yours as well, Ingvar, as crazed slaughter ensues, as those who like flee or drop down their weapons are just butchered as like a savagery, unsated on what are slain here, gets played out upon those unfortunates who find themselves numbered amongst the living, defeated. And as some of the Ulford now like race to catch these folk down and assail them, another thin column forms up under Skoll and begins to move across the causeway towards the palisaded Helgasker.
I'll bellow as best I can to try and stop the slaughter. We need these people to be either thralls or to work here. And if I can, I want to rush up to where Skoll is and like stand near him and remind him of the fact that we're not destroying this place, that we are taking this place. If I can do that, and I'll say as much to my men to try and like calm this slaughter. This is our place now.
I'm going to say you're going to have to roll an intimidation check to break the men out of their bloodlusted slaughter.
Okay.
If I may provide assistance with a help, basically, as my flaming god hammer is still there, kind of reminding them of our presence and of the gods.
Yeah, certainly you can
give them
use the
advantage?
help action. Yep, for sure.
Sweet. Okay, that's good. It's 18. Do I have a charisma score?
I picked 16 for my DC. So
19.
after you see the first couple butchered down, you can like yell and bawl to the men who will slowly, by ripples, begin to turn from errant slaughter towards the call of order. As the beacon of the flaming maul beckons them, men will begin to like form in, and most, if not all, begin to heed commands.
Wolves, I know you are hungry, but there'll be plenty to eat.
Yeah, many of the Asblother who have survived of Stigorm's contingent, who would probably number they probably lost half their men from all of this, and I think I'd said that there were 30 of those. So there's about 15 or so, 24 to 15. These Asblothers, and they kind of make like a ring around themselves, fearing the savagery of the sea wolves and the Isklofen, looking leaderless amongst each other and wondering at their place in what fate has ordained for this day, for this bloody day.
Yeah, if there's a chance, I guess I'll go and talk to them and try and bring them to my side.
As the forces are kept with like some modicum of cohesion, you can seize the causeway and open Helgasker beyond, and bring in or arrest the rest of like the townsfolk here who have not like wholly fled the slaughter and raid. Hjord, Fromund, and a few others would approach you as all of these things are being conducted with 3 prisoners of their own. 2 of them quite poorly dressed and with like humble, like rough spun about them. But when that's peeled aside, like their fine, like their robust constitution and their look marks them as nobles, similar to the Braggisons. And wheezing Fromund would cough, while Hjord would step forward and say, "We caught them, Lord, rushing from the back gate. We didn't come even when we heard the battle call, just as you was ordered."
I'll ruffle his hair and like bless him with like a smile.
Boy killed his first man, says Froman with bloody knuckles pointing towards Hjord, who beams at that.
Good lad, good. I'll like take one of the arm rings, one of the many, and I'll hand it to the boy. You've earned that today.
He looks like Charlie finding the golden ticket at that, and will like immediately put it all the way up onto his shoulder over his scrawny arm. Froman, coughing again, finally like spit out the phlegm that's been sorely afflicting him, and say, Bracy, the Virgin, and shakes his head. He didn't make it. Other than that, he'll gesture to the prisoners.
That's good work. Shame about Bracy.
Many feast in Corpse Hall tonight, Lord.
We'll celebrate them.
And while you have this conversation, men are moving about like slaughtered the grievously wounded or taking what loot they can without destruction. And slowly, as the mid-morning sun like ascends, Helgasker is seized. And I think this would be a good place to end it.
Oh, so satisfying.
As the camera like pans up, a topographic view of the fall of Helgasker.
Yeah,
Perfect.
excellent.
All right, thanks for watching if you did.